Hi, and welcome to another Code Win Talk. I'm Darren Aquino, and this is Johnny Pizza, my co-host, and this is Shannon Greer, and we are coming to you live with another special show. This show is brought to you by Code Media Group and Triple Vibes Radio, and we're going to bring to you today. It's a very sad story. It is with the Assistant National Chief Advocate for disabled Americans, veterans, police, firemen, and families. Um, as you all know, what we do as an advocacy, Frank is my assistant chief. And this story was so compelling. Um, I was involved with it as it was going on. From the day his mother went into the hospital to get heart surgery, and Frank would call me and we would pray for her successful recovery. And we got that. We got the recovery, but here's what else we got. She got infected by negligence so gross in the hospital, and Frank is going to give you the details. 2 days, his mother was gone. It was a horrible tragedy. This strong, vibrant Italian woman, old school. And Johnny, you know what I'm talking about. When it comes to those old Italians, you have to kill them. They don't just die. They don't just die. She was a very strong woman. Every Sunday, Frank would call me from the house. And he'd go, look, Ma. I go, hi, Ma. I'd see her. She'd be walking around to the kitchen. Even with the walker, she was in the kitchen cooking for her son. Cooking for her son. So we're going to talk about that. Frank is here with us due to technical difficulties. He's here with us here. Here he is, everybody. Wave to everybody, Frank.
Frankie.
Frank Spatorno. He has an elevated business. He's a volunteer to the organization, and he has been for several years. And he's part of our civil rights defense for those who have been slighted by their civil rights, who have been pushed aside. And Frank is going to share this tragic story where he watched his mother die after the doctor said she'll be fine. But here's what happened. They infected her bedroom in the hospital with a COVID patient. After the surgery, now we all heard nationally how if the vulnerable come in contact, CDC reported, CDC, let me be clear on who told us to be careful and what we should avoid. In a hospital, a medical facility, Frank's mother had to have bypass, like a stent. Was it stents, Frank?
Correct. It was a couple stents. The procedure went well. Unfortunately, they put her in a recovery room with a COVID-19 patient that was tested positive.
And as a result of that,
as a result, I'll tell you the story, Darren.
Tell us the story. Hold on. Tell us all the story. We all want to hear. I'm going to put you up in front there. You talk. Let's tell them your mother's name. Hold on. Let's tell them your mother's name. Let's tell them your mother's name so that everybody recognizes.
Hold on, Darren. My wife is here. Just go on 1 second.
Okay. All right. We got another little technical difficulty, everybody. Frank is going to tell the story as I'm going to tell the story. Frank's mother, very strong, vibrant Italian woman. Every weekend, the kid, Frank was there. Frank is the baby of the brothers. And every Sunday, Frank would be with his mother. She'd come and cook for him. Old traditional values. This woman was strong. She had other challenges, as you could see, with her heart. And the brother, his older brother, the oldest brother, Neil, is a lawyer. He fights federal cases. He's a very good lawyer. And he was overwhelmed where he was telling the doctors what they were going to do, and they would give him complications. And as a lawyer, he used all of his skills because we're talking about his mother. We're not talking about anybody.
How old was she? How old was she? You know?
She was 83, I think.
Right.
But she was very strong. I put the picture on Twitter. You saw how she looked. She looked like she was 70. She looked like she was 70. She was strong. You got to remember, every week she had a little bit of ambulating difficulty, but every week she was in that kitchen. There was nothing stopping Mrs. Spatorno from doing this. There was nothing. That was her life. Her children. After his father was a veteran. His father was a veteran who served this country. Um, and Frank is coming in with us in just a second, and he's going to tell the story. It's a very sad story because after everything was secure medically, the brother discussing with the doctors, telling him, the brother discussed with him in detail how he wanted this surgery to go for his mother. And Frank's older brother, Neil, and let me tell you, he went through the logistics and he told him how he was going to work with his mother to secure this. But what nobody foreseen, and the hospital, under just its common sense, the hospital didn't use its common sense, or it deliberately infected his mother. Because once she's infected, a COVID patient, they get $32,000. That's what they get. They get $32,000. So Frank is going to tell the story on how she entered. He's going to tell you his mother's name, so that remember, he's going to tell you all those details. Are you ready, Frank?
I'm ready, Darren.
Okay, that would be now. So introduce it. We're bringing Frank Spatono in again. He's on the road, so we're doing this mobily. We're doing this mobily through my phone, where he's going to tell you the story of how he watched his mother die from COVID after she had successful heart surgery, and how the hospital infected her, violating not only her rights, they failed to segregate her because she was vulnerable. She had a heart condition. They put death in the room with her. That's what they did. That's what they did. That's how I see it as an advocate. She should have been isolated and secure, but she was not. They put her in the room with the person who was infected. Frank, take it from here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank Spatono. I'm the Assistant National Chief at Darren Aquino Advocates for Disabled Americans, Firefighters, Police, Veterans, Families, and whatnot. On December 31st, my mom, Rosa Spatono, suffered a mild heart attack. Mild, and I say mild. Because when it happened to be on my birthday that very day also. So we called the ambulance. She was taken to the hospital. The next day, she was going to be released. They couldn't find anything. Then they decided to keep her one more day just in case. Then they found a blockage in one of her main arteries and a slight blockage in the other artery. They wanted to perform a double bypass. We talked them out of it. My brother, being the attorney and the executive in charge, he talked the hospital out of doing the double bypass, being that my mother was 87 years old, but healthy and fine and fit. What happened was they performed a double angioplasty, which is a stent. She was in the hospital for about 7 days doing all kinds of battery of tests, and I'm going back and forth with my older brother and the hospital administrators, as well as the doctors and nurses. And then we finally found a doctor that who decided will perform the angioplasty. Well, a week has gone by. She successfully passed all the tests.
And these are, Frank, are these pre-surgical tests?
Pre-surgical tests, right. They're all pre-surgical tests, and everything was satisfied with the administrator, with North Shore, whatnot. So on the following week, the operation, they went ahead with the first angioplasty, which is a stent in one of the arteries, in the main artery that was fully clogged. That stent went well. On Friday, they did the second stent on the other artery, which was halfway closed, more than 50%, I would say. So everything went well. She was on a road to recovery. We were all happy. We were waiting for it to come on home. What happened was, during her stay at North Shore, they had her in. She was isolated, so she was in.
That's the question we want to make sure. At the very beginning, Frank, it would be fair to say that she was isolated and kept secure, right?
Correct. She was isolated. What happened was, she was isolated. After the procedure, what they did was they put her in a recovery room. And
what was that? Oh,
A little
recovery.
louder, Frank. A little louder.
After the procedure was done, all procedures, my mother was put into a recovery room at North Shore Hospital in Long Island. Just have Eric take everything out of the table. Open for me, I do. Yeah. Okay.
We're coming to you live, folks, from Code Wind
All
Talk.
right, so. Just shut the door, Marguerite. Thank you, my love. All right. I already did, Marguerite. So, during the second week.
Let me bring you back. Let me bring you back because you lost your footing a little bit. We're coming. Let me announce to the audience again for people who are just coming in. I'm on the phone live with Frank Spatorno. Because of some communications issues, Frank couldn't join in the Zoom like usual because we had some complications. As you can see, he's live. He's with his wife. He's talking to us from his vehicle to tell you the update of how he witnessed his mother die from being infected by COVID at North Shore Hospital. After successful heart surgery, this 87-year-old vibrant Italian woman who on every Sunday cooked for her children, and Frank and I would talk to Frank every Sunday on the phone. He'd call in and check in, and I'd wave, "Hi, Mom," I'd say, and saw this woman, even while she was getting around the house, you could see her strength and her vigor, even with a walker. Well, because she had a little knee thing going on, and she'd be cooking full dinner.
87 years.
That's right. Let's go ahead. Hold it up. Go ahead. Hold it.
This is my mother, 87 years old, vibrant and young. This is a few months before she passed away.
That's right. I put that photo. That's the photo I used, and I tweeted it out. Frank is going to continue to tell the story. We're coming to you from Code Wind Talk. Thank you. We want to say thank you to Code Media Group and Triple Vibes Radio. Hold on, Frank, until I finish. We want to thank them for always making this show possible. Here is where we tell the truth. We bring it to you live. We bring you the facts. We bring you the truth. And that's why we're going back to Frank Spatorno to tell you how he's 87 years young, and I do mean a vibrant 87, where, you know, his mom would have lived to 107, to say the least.
Definitely 5 to 10 more years or possibly more.
Well, okay, as we get to that, Frank is going to tell you, as after her second surgery, how she was brought into a recovery room that became infected and subject her, that the hospital did not continue its protocol to isolate, which then makes it gross negligence, because how do we determine that? As an advocate, here's what happened in the country. The country recognized the disabled as more vulnerable to this disease for many different reasons. I myself, as a 9/11 victim, who have some now issues from 9/11. Other folks, elderly with similar conditions, make them vulnerable and susceptible to contracting this Chinese killer virus that made its way to America. How it got here is another story. But now it's here, and there's and responsibility that the governor of the state to safeguard American citizens is an obligation that he takes on when he says, "I will protect and defend," when he raises his hand and swears on the Bible as we know it, says he will protect the liberties and freedoms of Americans. Because you don't make that statement speaking about the document. The document is we the people are the document. We are the recipients of the guardians that we elect to enforce and protect our rights. Governor Cuomo did not do that. He didn't give proper protocols to hospitals. Okay, doctors know what to do, but doctors know what to do, but there's a protocol to enforce restriction and restrict areas that would secure the rights and liberties of the vulnerable. The vulnerable are doubly protected because of a law known to America as the Americans with Disabilities Act in the 14th Amendment. It falls in the category of civil rights, and justifiably so. And the reason it falls there is because there have been great challenges in the country for different liberties, who met with religious controversy, ethnical controversy, and the most of all, disability. Because of the wide range of different disabilities, it brings a vulnerability to the disabled community that can cause imminent harm that results in death. That's what happened to Frank Spatono's mother, Rosa Spatono, from negligence, gross negligence. Now, we also want you to know that we're not responsible here at Code Wind Talk for the factual statements made. We have these programs, and what you're hearing is factual truth from the guests that we bring on. Frank Spatono, who's also my assistant national chief, is telling you the truth. I spoke to his mother. I know, me and Frank were in touch every day. We had a little prayer time for his mother, that she was getting the surgery. Everything was well. I know this to be true, that she was isolated and secure. After the surgery, she was no longer secure. So Frank is going to tell you the alarming factors where all of the brothers, there are 3 brothers in this family, and Neil is the oldest brother, who is a renowned attorney who does federal cases, constitutional cases, criminal cases. He knows his stuff, but now they killed his mother. So Frank is going to finish telling us. Take a seat, Frank, and be still so you could be.
I'm in my backyard.
Okay, now look into the camera. Keep the camera up to your face. Okay, take a seat, and now let's finish the story. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Spatono is going to finish this very sad and tragic end of his mother's life because of gross negligence of North Shore Hospital. I want to make that crystal clear. As an advocate, I know, because I got the first phone call, and Frank was devastated. That I was with him throughout it. We were posting and keeping and praying for Mom, because I knew in my spirit and our Italian culture, and John is here, he knows, you're not taking down an Italian mama that easy. It's going to take a lot to do that. In this case, the hospital was reckless. There should have been staffers, nurses, and orderlies that segregated those bodies, the vulnerable, from contracting this disease. A COVID. Frank, you got to focus, buddy. Stay focused here, okay? We're on live. We're on live, Frank. Got to stay focused.
Stop. We're on live.
Okay, so now what you're going to hear is the life-shattering tragedy of, here's their mother, and now she's gone, and there is someone responsible. I want to hold them accountable. You all know me. We don't take this sitting down. This is not okay. It's not okay. The governor's not off the hook. I spoke with a doctor today who said, well, he made some mistakes. No, he committed murder. That's what he did, and we're going to hold him accountable to it. It's we the people, not we the politicians. We will hold them accountable for this. Frank's mother became a victim, and now she became a casualty. And now their mother's not here. They will at least guaranteed a little more time. She was vibrant enough. A successful heart surgery on a strong, vibrant woman who led a clean, healthy life, who had loving sons, who made sure of it. Frank was there every Sunday. He didn't miss a Sunday. So this bothered me as much as well. Even his brother, a skilled attorney, spoke with me on my perspective, as she was a disabled woman. And let me tell you, his brother is like super smart, super duper federal attorney. If you want an attorney and you're in trouble, you want Neil.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a good attorney. I'm happy to call him. He's an extension to my family, because Frank, I went all the way up to New York for this funeral. With everything going on, I was not going to miss this funeral because of what it means to me as Frank and our relationship. But the relationship I had with his mom. Hey, Mom, every week. Hi, Mom. How you doing, Mom? Frank would be, well, there. Look, Mom. But he doesn't get that no more. Frank, tell him the rest. I know. Hold on, brother. Tell them the rest. Here you go. You're back.
How are you?
Okay, get to it, Frank. Tell them.
Let's be clear. What Darren just stated, everything. He just spelled everything out. So practically, Darren said the whole entire story. I'll just give you a bit more of the details involved. After the successful surgery, the two stents or the angioplasty were done. My mother was put in a recovery room. Henceforth, a few days later, we were called. She came down with aspirations for pneumonia. We were shocked. Aspirations for pneumonia. She's been there for 10, 11 days. And what's going on? So, make a long story short, she was diagnosed having aspirations for pneumonia. A few days go by afterwards. They revealed to us that in her room, in my mother's room, her roommate was tested positive for COVID-19.
And prior to that, she was isolated, correct?
Correct. She was isolated all during prior for the 13 days prior to both successful stents put in. She was isolated. After the operation, both operations, the angioplasty, she was put in a room with a roommate that was tested positive for COVID-19. Now, what struck me was we were really, my brother and I, we didn't really focus on the COVID-19 because we weren't allowed ourselves. Now, most COVID patients in this country, you're not allowed to see your loved one when they're infected.
Right.
On other instances, on other ailments, you are allowed. Heart ailments, broken legs, whatnot, fallen.
So wait a second, Frank. You're saying other people with less conditions, there were no restrictions?
No, in this hospital. See,
right, at this hospital, at North Shore Hospital, they limited the restrictions?
It was totally locked down. So we thought being it was totally locked down for all patients, regardless of COVID or 19, we felt that my mother was being securely well taken care of.
You thought?
We thought that. So we didn't bother to
inquire or investigate.
Frank.
So we thought for a while, if they would allow us inside to visit our mother, it must be they are really taking this virus really serious. That they don't want anybody walking into the hospital.
Into your mother, who is a vulnerable person that if coming in contact with COVID, what would happen did happen.
Right. So what happened was we received after the diagnosis of aspirations for pneumonia. They wind up telling us that my mom was my mom's in a room with infected patients. So now they're going to isolate her. So they did isolate her. They put her they did isolate her.
They re-isolated her.
Right, they re-isolated her once again.
After they infected her.
During that time, from aspirated pneumonia, it had gotten worse. A few days later, she was diagnosed with COVID-19, being infected as well. They told us not to worry. We're going to give her remdesivir. Everything what the president was given, they were giving her. Unfortunately, it went 3 or 4 days later. It went from bad to worse. And then finally, my mom succumbed within 20 hours being on a ventilator. She succumbed to the COVID-19 death, COVID/heart failure. What bothers me as an advocate myself, and that day I texted Darren, my mom died, and Darren couldn't believe because he hasn't heard from me for about, I would say, about 7 to 10 days, right, Darren?
No, it was less than that. It was about 5 days. 4 or 5 days.
Right,
Since we prayed for her after the surgeries.
When I texted you that night that my mom passed away, the day that my mom passed away, you were shocked. You immediately gave me a call. Make a long story short, what bothers me is that this infection was going on for over 1 year. With all the resources and all the information that was out there, knowing that an 87-year-old, whether regardless of my mom or anyone that's over 70 years old, you're just coming out of 2 heart surgeries, endoplastic. Why would you put someone that's already isolated into a room, non-isolated, in a recovery room? That was question number 1. So I started asking I started doing some investigation myself. I wrote to the State Department, to the State Health Department.
Right.
I wrote to the City Health Department, and they immediately blocked it off. But what I did find out was, at the time of my mother being at North Shore Hospital in Long Island, out of the whole Long Island between Nassau County and Suffolk County, North Shore was the most infected hospital throughout Nassau and Suffolk County. We didn't know that.
Throughout New
That's
York
why
State?
we locked down.
Would you say throughout New York State, Frank, or just in the
Well,
counties?
Definitely between Nassau and Suffolk County. I don't want to say throughout New York State, but when I did call the State Health Department, the moment I mentioned North Shore, they told me that I had to put everything in writing, which we did. So it could have been throughout the whole entire state. Long Island was definitely infected very, very heavily.
Well, I could tell you this, everybody, and everybody knows
I'm
this.
not sure
My
about
mother
that.
died in the same hospital, and she had a respiratory issue where her lungs got, because she had a heart issue, they punctured my mother's lung. So I would have to say, and my mother was 80, and she was a strong 80. And let me tell you, they punctured her lung, and then they had to keep her in a induced coma because they punctured her lung. So naturally, when they do that, it's the other organs are going to start giving a problem.
Really? Right.
So I mean, the fact that this hospital again is in question, I have no question that they practice in a manner that puts people at risk. They're not practicing good medically. The fact that they would take, let me just share everybody here, as I'm talking to Frank with us, the fact that vulnerable, let me just make that clear. As I told you all, as an advocate, a guardian of the 14th Amendment, which protects you as a disabled person, the nation knew, the president broadcasted a status, vulnerable. His mother was in a protected class who was not protected. Neither the state, neither the city, nor the county took any action to enforce securities within the hospital, such as the health department. Why didn't the health department say, listen, when you got these vulnerable here, you make these areas secure? They could have done that. It doesn't interfere with the doctor's practice. What it does is secure the patient from acquiring any other ailments. Now, as an advocate, I tell them what to do. How do we keep? What I do as an advocate is keep you in the same category as an able person. An able person is quick to tell you, but they were not as a vulnerable victim. An able body was not subject to the same kind of effect that COVID would have. But that's why the vulnerable on a national level, the president advised, the CDC advised, and the hospitals, the governors did not comply. And as a result of that, Frank's mother is dead. Dead.
And I want to stick down.
Yes.
The day my mother died, on January 20 of this year, 2021. If you Google what is the worst day the pandemic came upon us, the deaths in this country, the worst day happens to be on January 20, 2020, the day of the inauguration of Biden. That's the day my mom died at 6:30 in the morning.
That's right.
And it was 6:35. It was 4,000 deaths that day. That was the most this country has ever died. That
In a day.
patients have
In a day, yeah.
any one day was January 20. It was the most infected day since the pandemic came upon us from 2019 early.
The day that Biden was inaugurated.
Right, and happened to be on January 20, 21st. What bothers me, knowing this, our governor, Cuomo, the president, the prior president, Trump, he gave the states enormous funding to help people like my mother. He gave us the
comfort,
comfort.
And the Jacob Javits, he loaded that and prepared it.
And he gave us Long Island, the Coliseums in Long Island, where they turned all those Coliseums and churches and tents into facilities for COVID-19 patients. What did the governor do? After we spent billions of dollars in this state alone, I can't speak about the other states, but I can only speak about this state. Our president, our prior president, did try to save tens of thousands of people.
Yes, he did.
He allocated billions of dollars.
Millions.
Billions of dollars building up tents, facilities for COVID-19 patients. And what did our governor do?
He rejected it.
He took them down. He said, we don't need them. And it was the worst time since the whole year that this tragedy began. COVID-19, the hospitals were packed to capacity, worse than what it was last March or April of 2020. Worse. And yet when I called up, everything was taken down. We no longer needed the comfort. We no longer needed the Jacob Javits Center. We no longer needed Westchester County, Suffolk County. We had resources where we spent billions of dollars only not to be able to use it. And tens of thousands of people have died in New York State, I believe, because of an action that our governor, because of political
policies.
Political parties, and people had to suffer regardless of party affiliation. My mother wasn't a Republican or a Democrat. She was just a regular person. And at 87 years old, she didn't think about politics. Yet politics destroyed her. And because if we had focused more on the recovery, left everything up, probably my mother would have been alive. They didn't have to put so many people into rooms together. Whereas at that moment in time, the hospitals were filled to capacity once again.
Well, let me respond to that, Frank. Let me respond to that. Let me put the phone down so that I can address the audience as well. You were on a topic. Not only did he cover those areas, let me tell you, during the campaign, because Frank also took over for my campaign as Congress, I sent the governor a fax telling him, because they was grabbing for straws. The governor was grabbing for straws. He was praising the president for sending in the comfort. Thank you, Mr. President. What a great guy. He sent in the Army Corps of Engineers to set up the beds, central, everywhere. But here's what the governor didn't do. And I know Andrew and Frank knows. I stopped the parade. Andrew, come on, because we're Italian Americans. I put our culture before I put politics. Because our culture, Italian culture, is a very loving culture. It ruled this world for thousands and thousands of years because of what we believe. You know, family and the love of family comes from the Italian culture of how important it is to us. Love and loving family and standing and keeping family together. As we talked about John, my co-host here, and Shannon's our newest jump-in co-host here as well. In case we get the female who questions me and John, we're ready. We got backup. We got Shannon. We got backup. But when John also grew up like you, Frank. He's your elder, my elder, and fought in the Vietnam War. Okay, what that culture gave is the family came together. Okay, that war wasn't right. COVID was another war on this country that came from China, from the powers that be. Okay, this war was like the war Hitler had to take over the world. It went after the vulnerable. He took women and children, and the elderly were his victims. Como behaved the same way in this by putting people in nursing homes. Because I told the governor, now I'm getting back to the point. I told the governor, we have armories around the city, around the boroughs, all around. Those armories are huge. They're like big castles. Okay, they're big castles. They store guns, and we got tanks in there. We're ready. They could have taken those. And I told the governor, use the armories. And now that the schools are empty, Frank knows it was a press release. I put it out. It was the best message. I told him who he should go for first. First, deal with the 68,000 homeless New Yorkers that would potentially spread this disease viral because they're on the street in contact with everybody at train stations, airports, bus depots, is where they stay to get a handout. So I also told him to direct the garment district, the biggest in the world, to make the outfits that they could put them on the people and put them on themselves and do the testing of these people at the armories, at the schools, the public schools. And I told them to reclaim the Pilgrim State facility, a 13,000 bed on 458 acres. 458 acres. We could have built on that during this time to take it back. But no, the $20 million was better for his pocket than it was a life. It was more important than the life of Frank's mother and the 15,000 mothers and fathers that suffered death by his hand. I don't care what anybody says. He's a murderer. That's what he is. I am a tax-paying citizen. I was a New Yorker for 59 years. And let me just make it crystal clear. He's a fucking murderer. And he killed the vulnerable. And that's all there is to it. I'm not going to take it easy. It is our duty as citizens to stand up against a government that puts you in harm. This government in New York State put the people that were vulnerable to face imminent harm that resulted in death. There is no way around it. He has an oath, and that oath has consequences that talk about if he puts the life in jeopardy of any citizen. The paramount law of the land is the Constitution of the United States. The separation of powers does not give him authority over it. And we need to recognize that as citizens. We need to recognize that as taxpayers. We need to recognize that as the true guardians. Our forefathers, the framers, told us what to do and when to do it. Frank's mother would be here today, and 15,000 others would be here today. What they got as a perk to let them die was 32,000 a patient. So here's the deal. Are you going to let them live or let them die? Here's what's in it for you if we can bring up a casualty against President Trump.
Right.
The greatest president ever, who said, no, we're not going to be part of a world order. We're not going to be a part of anybody's order. We're going to be an independent America. We're going to stay along the framework of the founding fathers. We're not going to join this group or that group. We're pulling out of this group. Nobody liked that. Now, I was fighting with a doctor today and said, listen, he said, he's not good. I said, he was very good. Hey, look it. So what if he's braggadocious? So what if he's got a big ego? We love that big ego because you know why? A guy with a big ego doesn't want to fail. So that means his heart is going to be all in to win. All in, listen to me, all in to win. That was Trump, all in to win your support by being the best guy ever. You could tell me whatever you want. Is some things true about the president? Of course. But here's what he was. He was on page for America. And that's never going to change. And they just didn't like that. We had a president that was one of us.
Right.
That's what we had, a president that was one of us. And that's never going to change. I sat in a restaurant. I was at the table with him at Rails, Frankie, down Rail. the six by the bar. We're sitting there, and I was sitting. My father brought me over. I was 30 years old, 30 years ago. Brought me over to the table. So I stuck up, you know me, right? I went, so you're the Donald. I said, I'm the Darren. I go, I'm the Darren. You're the Donald. Nice to meet you. You know, I was feeling my oats then. I was 30 years old. God, I wish I was again.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm a vulnerable because I'm a 9/11 survivor. I had the disease. You know I had it, Frank. You know, you saw the picture in the paper. They put a nice picture. The picture I put up online was me struggling right here in this corner, right here, because I was surrounded. Everybody could see I was surrounded by Republicans, good Republicans that I thought. But all of them turned out not to be so good, except the Gipper. The Gipper was good. He was always good. George Bush disappointed me a lot.
The Gipper was there.
George Bush disappointed me a lot.
Darren,
Stand up for his Republican president because you know why? Because President Trump is not an ass kisser. He wasn't an ass kisser. He was a true patriot. Yes, my dear.
can I just say one
Absolutely.
little
Please,
funny thing?
please say. Let me make Frank look too. Go ahead.
I used to have a flock of backyard chickens, and the rooster, guess what we named it?
Bush.
The Donald.
So Donald.
We called him the Donald. Yeah.
Say it again from the beginning, Shannon, because it got a little cutouts. Say that again with the roosters that you raised chickens and roosters and.
Yeah, we had laying hens, so they gave us eggs, fresh, wonderful backyard eggs every day. A little flock of about 22 chickens, and our top rooster, the one that was in charge of everything, and we had to carry a stick everywhere we went in the backyard lest he would attack us. His name was the Donald. Called him the Donald.
So you had a rooster called the Donald. Okay? Every morning it was cock-a-doodle-doo.
Yeah, because he
I gotta
embodied
tell you.
that spirit that we love in Donald Trump.
Well,
Donald,
Donald, let me tell you.
Darren,
Yes.
Cockle Donald do.
Cockle-Donald-Doo. That's right.
There you go.
Cockle-Donald-Doo.
He sang Cock-a-Donald Do every morning.
That's right. There you go. And that's why, look it, I told this doctor, the doctor said to me, you got to run. He's a Democrat. And I said, listen to me. He says, they're all criminals. I said, I agree. Donald wasn't a criminal. Donald was not a criminal. Yes, he had a big ego. And
But
that
it's
was
the
the
difference.
best thing nobody got. That was the best thing for us. This is a guy that's not going to fail because he's got to fill his ego. He's got to do it. He's got to do it.
See,
Why? Aside from him being a good guy, and like I told this doctor, I said, let me tell you something about the Donald. I know, okay? He gave my father $10,000 to prevent drugs from through education. My father headed an organization to prevent drugs because my brother was a drug addict. Go figure. At times they don't. My father couldn't deal with my son, but he would help other kids for what my brother was struggling with. Go figure. I don't understand the logic there, but that's the way he did it. Frank gets it. I know John gets it. Like, okay, I'm gonna help the kid down the street. That's a drug addict because I can't deal with my own son. I get that. But the Donald gave my father $10,000 because there was everybody saw Rocky. Am I right? Everybody saw Rocky. Remember Rocky had the rope when he got Paulie the robot that came out, the big robot? My father got that robot. And he got the Donald and my cousin Frankie at Rails. They kept giving my father money for it. Donald gave my father $10,000. This is good, Sonny. This is good, he said, for the kids, to teach the kids. Donald was always impressed with things that would benefit kids because he was a kid once. You know, he was under strict rules and different things. But when he became his own man, playboy, whatever you want to call him, okay? When he became, on January 20th in 2018, the president of the United States, right? 2000, right? 18, 20, 16, 17, 16.
16. Well, he was inaugurated in 17.
Right, on 17. Okay, Frank was there.
elected.
Me and Frank were in the front. 20 tickets they gave to my organization.
Front seat.
I had front row, right under the Great Seal, and my cardinal from New York, right? The cardinal was there. I'm looking over the. It was a great day because the president, this man who grew up in New York, who lived in Queens, who rose to wealth and fame. Yes, he felt his oath. Yes, he part of the crazy things that's going on. Let me ask anybody this question. If you were Donald Trump, would you have done anything less? I know that answer. That answer is no, they wouldn't have done anything less. Would you have been just like Donald Trump? The answer is yes. Why not? You're a wealthy man, but here's the difference with Donald. Donald would give money to charities that were worthwhile. If it did something, he would do something. That's a fact. Okay? We had Waldman Ring in New York City in Central Park. They were letting it deteriorate. Donald rebuilt it. Donald grew up in New York. We all grew up in New York. Everybody in this, well, except you, Shannon. We're going to bring you to New York, Shannon. We're going to share our dream with you.
I have some New York tickets that I'm saving.
Well, when
them.
you come to New York on the 16th, now let me just say this in here because Carl is going to call soon and he's not going to, he can't call because I'm on the phone with Frank.
He'll call me.
He'll call you.
Darren, can I add a thought to what
Yes, you
you're
can.
saying?
And I'll continue the thought. Go ahead, Shannon.
So, as you're talking about Donald Trump and how he's constantly under scrutiny by the public, it brings to mind it is what ego versus criminal. You said ego versus criminal. You can compare it in law to the question of, is this a question of morality and what's right and wrong in your mind versus what is lawful? Is this breaking the law? And I would like to propose that a lot of this is just people's perceptions and their views of what's moral or immoral. But do they really know Donald Trump? Have they ever met him? Do they know him as a person? How are these ideas in their mind that
Let me answer. Let me answer
say
some of that.
one
Go ahead.
last thing, which is to sum it all up, it just brought to mind a Bible verse, which is, let he who has never sinned cast the first stone. How many of us have never done anything like what he is accused of every day? You know, why would we convict him for, a few things that he might have said that were inappropriate? Have any of us ever said inappropriate things in private moments where we thought nobody else was listening, or that everybody had the same kind of view? I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying, if he's demonstrated extremely strong leadership skills and clearly cares about our country and takes his job seriously, shouldn't that be given more weight?
Yes, it should be given more weight. Okay, but you see, here's how we get to that weight. And Frank Frank agrees. I mean, Frank was a candidate for Congress in the seat that AOC has, just so you all know. Frank was a candidate in that district. The Republican Party in New York, just like they didn't like Donald, Frank took me around to all the leaders. Okay, when I was running for mayor, he also contributed to my mayoral race because he was running for the Congress, but then they wanted to manipulate all of us. They didn't like Donald in the beginning. After he started kicking ass from his personality, then they said, oh man, we got to get behind this guy. Because you know why? You can't be popular. It doesn't matter what party you are. You're not going to be popular. Because popular, that's why, like, hold on. That's why today, until all of history, nobody will be the king of rock and roll but Elvis Presley. That's the thing I'm trying to present to you. Donald Trump is like the Elvis Presley of politics. He will be remembered like Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? He's. Go ahead, John. You got something to say? I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to get back to Shannon's point about the stuff that President Trump says that might be inappropriate. Look at all the inappropriate and horrible things that the left is doing, and nothing's
Yeah.
done. Nothing's done about it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Trump did not walk aside of a police car and pull the trigger and blow a guy's brains out. Okay, but these people are doing it and they're getting away with it, and
Yeah.
it's driving me crazy that they're getting away with this. You know, and I
A
don't
lot-
understand it.
It's
I
driving
don't-
a lot of people crazy, and we have no voice because it's been taken away by big tech. So
Big tech. Everybody hears me, right?
targeting a
we
certain
hear you,
sector.
but
of society.
you're frozen.
I know. I look frozen, so I don't know why that is.
Darren, I can't see you. The only person I can see is John.
You can't see Frank. What's going on? Hold it. Wait. Hold on.
Can you see me?
Oh yeah. Oh, of course
I can't. I cannot see either of you. I've tried.
What's going on here?
I know she can hear me.
Okay.
I don't want to get into the technical stuff. I just don't know if anybody else has the same thing going
You know,
on.
while you're trying to figure this out, let me fill in here. I
Go ahead.
want to get back to Frank about his mother and Cuomo.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? I don't know how Cuomo could look in the mirror every night. I never forget when I was a kid, there used to be a program called Thriller. It was hosted by Boris Karloff.
Oh, that was my favorite show. His hands used to come up to 6 fingers.
Right. Well, yeah, right. I can relate to that in my book. But there was an episode on one time, and this guy, at the end of the show, he goes in front of the mirror because he did some bad things. Okay. And he goes in front of the mirror and he's speaking to a vision in the mirror that he's looking at. And it looks like him. All right. But then it says, guy says, all I see is myself in the mirror. I'm kind of paraphrasing. It's such a long time ago. I was only a kid. And the guy, the image in the mirror says to him, well, bring the light closer. Okay. So now I visualize Cuomo looking in the mirror. Okay. Telling him to bring the light closer. And when he brought the light closer, what looked back at him was this ugliest demon that you would ever want to see. That was his soul looking back at him, because the guy was so black and dark and, not color black, but I mean, as far as his actions, you know what I mean? And he saw himself as an evil devil, and he had a heart attack, I believe, and he just dropped dead, So that's what Mary Cuomo needs to look in the mirror and bring the light very close and see himself for what he really is. Okay. Anyway.
Well, but you see, a lot of people don't know that the character of the Donald. What they saw is what the media portrayed. What Donald did was he supported both parties throughout the years. If he liked you, he supported you. You understand? That should be the nature. That should be the nature.
Both
parties loved him. You know why?
Yes.
His wallet was big.
Yeah, he was on the late night shows and.
No, let's not be confused here. He had a big, huge wallet. Both parties would love him.
Sure.
Right, own him.
He was generous.
He was very generous if he liked you. If he believed in you, he would support you. What do you think the show, the what's the name of that show? The Frank, the name of that show he had. The not The Advocate. The Apprentice. Same thing, like an advocate. The Apprentice. What do you think he was doing for people? He was giving them opportunities they never had. Mm-hmm. He was giving nobody something. What did he get to do? Brag about it. Nobody was watching closely the real man inside this guy. So what if he goes out and he lives this lavish and crazy? Who cares? Did he hurt anybody? No. Did he bless the city and make things better? Yes.
Maybe there was a lot of jealousy.
Well, because here's the guy that was supporting parties. Yeah, he's got a business, everybody, and that level. My cousin's a billionaire. Creator of Arizona Iced Tea. I understand. Hangs out with the Donald. They play golf now. They played before, and then there's a picture. My cousin's not going to wear the hat. My cousin don't wear hats. He's holding the hat in his hand. My cousin sends me the picture. He's like this in front of the helicopter, the Donald Trump helicopter. He's holding the hat here. He's not putting it on. He's not doing it because my cousin does not care about that. You know what I mean? He's a millionaire, and they didn't make him a billionaire. He did it on his own. He busted his ass for 25 years and created one of the greatest soft drinks ever, Arizona iced tea. He did it himself. I promoted for him as well. I was his point of sale guy. I put signs everywhere that today in New York City, you cannot put a sign on a pole because of me. You'll get a fine for it today because I did this is the truth. The law was made after I ran.
I used to put signs up in Portland.
I went through the Bronx, the Grand Concourse. I went through the Bronx, the Grand Concourse, and I took the Midnight Dragon signs, the Arizona Tea signs, and I bombarded what we have lampposts. I take 2 pieces of paper and I staple them together on each side. Okay? No. You have to, because it's a pole. So you got to wrap around the pole and you got to staple it so it's tight. And then you send it up the pole. And I put one under it, one under it, one under it until the pole was full. Now, picture the Grand Concourse. It's like Park Avenue. I went from the beginning to the end. And every pole up the thing, it was in the newspaper the next day. They made a law that you can no longer do it. If you do it, it's $50 or $100 per sign. They couldn't do nothing about it because the court, I did it right in front of the courthouses and all the bodegas on Grand Concourse. I flooded that. And here's the ironic thing. A guy was worried that worked for my uncle. My uncle Johnny, who worked there, Johnny Horse, he was my cousin's father. Okay, separated from my aunt. Okay, but still my uncle. You understand me? His father's my uncle because it's his father. So what happens, right? They all say there's this kid, Ralphie, Latino kid, who was doing coke every day, not doing his job. And this is the guy, he's the manager. He's got to train me. But now they're worried because my cousin's the boss. What does that mean? He's out of a job soon. So now he's going back to work, and he's telling Darren's not doing his job. He's not doing it. He's doing this secretly. My uncle's just listening, but he knows this kid. Okay, what he doesn't know is every day he goes out, he's drinking, he's an alcoholic and a drug addict. But he's making everybody else do the job. So I'm going out on the job. So he's trying to pitch all this stuff to me. And I'm saying, no, look, we got to get this done. Like, I'm not down with it. First of all, I don't drink. If you want to go out later and have a beer, I'm down with you. But let me get some coke and this. No, let's do the job. He goes back and saying, I'm not doing my job. I find out later, my uncle says to me, are you putting up the signs? You're not doing good in the beer. I said, listen, I don't sell beer. I'm not good at that. I don't know anything about the market. Okay. You want me to go, but you could do it. My cousin used to say, you could do it. You could do everything I could do. Okay. What I learned how to do is speak well. He held good meetings. It stayed up here in my mind bank. Okay. But what I learned was that they were so intimidated by me being the boss's cousin that they were worried about their job. All they did was spend their time to undermine me. So now I do this thing, and I went out and started going out by myself. My uncle said, I'm going to take you away from him. Okay? Later, he asked me to help him to get him in rehabs, the advocate. I was good enough. I had to put him in 2 rehabs twice. I went out on the street. My uncle comes back to me and says, calls me upstairs. Again, you didn't do this? You're incorrigible. I said, what are you talking about, Uncle? He says to me, you didn't do it. Ralphie said, listen to me. I know. I said, really? I get the newspaper article from that day. I throw it on the desk. Really? I didn't do my work? How about this? He looked at this, and all of a sudden you hear, Ralphie, get in here. How about now, Uncle? How about now? I didn't do my job? You can't put a poster on a pole now. I put so many, you can't do it. You can't do it. Campaign. I learned that from my dad. Back in the 60s, my dad was campaigning for Procatino, Lindsay, all these things back in the day. And he used to use the polls. He used to make all the neighborhood kids, my friends, get out the literature. It was ingenious. My father was so smart. Who thought later that I would use those techniques? God knew. And I used it for my cousin. I promoted him like a politician. I figured the street polls, this is brilliant. I said, oh, no problem. I had a staple gun. I used to go out with a staple gun, the one that you hold like a gun. And I hold boom, 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 boom. I was everywhere. While the salesman would go in the store, I'd put it up on the window. because he made 99-cent bullseyes. Nobody put up point of sale like me. I said, why? Because that's my cousin's name. That's his product. It's not gonna, that's my cousin. You understand? They could say everything they wanted about me, but it wasn't true. Because that's my cousin. I love my cousin. It's not a question. You're gonna test my loyalty? Okay, send me out and see what I don't do. Okay? You're gonna have to find something that I don't do. But they couldn't do it. And then later they all said, yeah, how about now? Then they were crying, asking me, help Ralphie, because he was drunk. And I helped him still, because that's the right thing to do. But how many times do good people get accused of wrong things? Frank's mother, a good woman, deserving and entitled to be safeguarded by order of the state to enforce restrictions in hospitals. Shannon, you got to remember this because we're in this case now. You're in this with me. You're in it with me. You're in it, Shannon. You're there. You're in it. You're in it. And you got to be in it to win it. You got to be in it to win it. Okay? So as we do this, Frank, I was talking to Neil. Should I add her on the New York? Can I do it? Because Frank, the office is here. Frank is an advocate. Yeah, his brother is a big dog. As I said, it's too emotional for Neil. Neil wants somebody else to do it because it kills him every day. It's his mama. It's his mama. How does he defend his mama? He cried. I sat at the table with Frank. We were at the house. Italians, we all get together. John, we're all at the table. He's still sorry he couldn't defend his mother. He's the best defense you could ever have. If you had trouble, you want Neil. You want Neil to defend you. True or false, right, Frank?
He's a good, very good litigator. Very good.
He's big dog. Okay. If he sees R.K. Shannon, he laughed. He laughed. Shannon. He laughed. They held Shannon a victim. They're trying to charge her with trespassing, Frank. I should send it, Frank. I'm going to send you the thing. Have Neil look at my response to the court. The judge let me in. Tell Neil to give me some pointers.
I will.
They charged her with trespassing because they couldn't make the no mask stick. They had the cop come and tell her, it's not about the mask now. It's not about the mask now.
Yeah.
Oh, what is it about now? What is it now? You see the key word, Shannon? It's not about the mask now.
Mhm.
You understand me when I was telling you? It's not about the mask now. What's it about now? It's about a bullshit case that says, how am I going to lock Shannon up and also charge her some government fees, $500 to $1,000 surcharges?
They wanted to make an example out of me for everybody else. Do not go into a place and presume that you can go without a mask when we have ordered all of you to do it
We
with a
have
mask.
warned you to submit to the will of government and not
Yes.
that of the
You have
people.
no choice. The Constitution is suspended, and we are not going to acknowledge any rights as long as we decide that we've got this pandemic going on. But this has already been decided. Luckily for me, this whole scheme of enforcing a policy of stores, which in this case is handed down from the governor through the stores. It's a clever enforcement scheme. There you are. What'd
I'm
you
back.
do?
I figured out to start the camera again.
Oh,
I figured out, look at this. I figured out start the camera again.
well, now I can't, but I can't see Frank. Frank, tell Frank how to do it. Frank. Oh, there, I see this part of you. Move it over a little more. Oh, there it is. There you are. Hi, Frank. Hi. Finally, I get to see you.
Thank you. I'm glad.
Yes.
Shannon
I
has
want
joined the advocates team.
For your mama, I want to be able to help.
Thank you.
I don't know what I can do, but I want to. She deserves it. My uncle also was very vibrant in his 80s, and a similar thing happened. It gets me very
Tell him,
emotional.
Shannon, tell him he was also a veteran, was he not?
Yes, a Navy veteran.
Go ahead, share. Tell it, Shannon, tell it.
It was during the Vietnam War, I believe. Vietnam? No, it must have been before that.
Because
He
he's
was
what? He's in his 80s, right?
He was born in 33, I
World
think.
War II,
No.
right, John?
Korea.
Korea.
World War II, Korean War. My father was born in 31, so he fought in the Korean War.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Korean War.
I
What was
never
that like? What was that like? That Korean War was rough.
He was 11 years older than my father, but he became a Christian at the end of his life, and it just really surprised me because it's such a long story, but
Let's talk about how he got sick, Shannon.
well, he was fine. I was talking to him before the election. He was a Democrat. He didn't like Trump and all that, but I didn't, try to engage him in politics. I listened politely. I didn't realize that would be the last time I would talk to him. It was probably February of
This was your father's brother?
20.
Your
Yes,
father's brother.
Darren. Yes, Darren. My father's older brother. And he was very active in his church. He was down in Texas, and his wife was suffering from Alzheimer's, and she's in what do you call it, a nursing home. But he was all clear. He was older than her. So in his 80s, what, about 87 or something along those lines. But just very smart, very much there, very vibrant. And one day I see my dad has made a Facebook post that my uncle, his brother, has been put in isolation because of an outbreak. And we couldn't get the whole story. Like, was it the flu? At first we heard it was the flu, and then my dad was trying to understand from his brother on the phone, like, well, was it flu or was it COVID? And he couldn't get a straight answer. And then they put him on lockdown. He was in an assisted living facility at the time. They put him on lockdown. And then all of a sudden he's incommunicado. We can't call him on the phone. We don't know who to contact. We don't know where he is. He's
And what
gone.
month is this about, Shannon?
Huh?
What month around is this?
It was after Christmas,
So this
Was
is
that-
last Christmas.
I believe so.
Okay, so this is
I
like
have to double
just
check.
before January.
I believe it was right after Christmas, before New Year's Eve. So he's incommunicado. His phone, you'd call his phone and no one would answer, and he's not available. And then next thing you know, 2 weeks later, he's dying of COVID. And we don't even know. I still don't know what happened or what the story is, how he died, how they decided that he died of COVID. They said that they locked him up in his house on house arrest, quarantine, and he had a dog that he loved to go out, and he looked forward to this every day, just to go out and walk the dog. They would not let him walk his own dog. They walked the dog for him. They wouldn't let him out.
What state was he in? Texas?
Texas.
Okay. We need to be clear on that. Let me address everybody. See, we had lots of challenges around the country that came this very action, everybody knowing it. There is nobody that could stop you from your liberty unless you present a threat. If you're not sick and you present no harm,
And
they
he was
cannot
not sick.
restrict your activity.
He was
This
not
is free America.
sick.
This
He
is
was
free
not-
America. There is no separation of powers. In the separation of powers, is there no place that says, oh, we can stop you. There is nothing that can stop you from roaming the country. Nothing. There is no law on the book that can stop you from this freedom.
Except for criminals.
Except, well, I said, if you present a threat, but a law-abiding citizen should never come under attack of any
Right.
constitutional issues. And that's what we went through. They make the Democrats' plan was to make this a fearful attack to limit you by your own fear.
They release the
And to
criminals
stop
and
you
lock
by
up.
arrest, hold on, to stop you by intimidation from exercising the freedom of fearlessness as an American citizen. The fearlessness that we possess as citizens is what they attacked. With
As we breathe
intimidation.
our free air.
Well, that's why they put Shannon under arrest. You're under arrest for trespassing. Wait a second. I didn't trespass. Nobody
They've
told
already
me to
gone
leave.
through this in the 60s during the sit-ins. You know, they arrested people and charged them with trespass because they didn't want them in their private businesses. And they said, we're a private business. We can kick out anybody we like. It's our First Amendment rights to choose, you know, it's our constitutional rights to choose who we serve in our private businesses. The Supreme Court said, no, 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 no. You listen, you have a right to say, I want to discriminate against people, but you can't go and call the police and get the state to enforce your segregational policies. You can't segregate against anybody. And they set that standard. The Supreme Court made a
We gotta
ruling.
add that. We gotta add that to my summary.
You cannot use trespassing or resisting arrest or disorderly conduct as you know, a way of
Justice Marshall said.
it's prosecutorial abuse is what it is.
And Justice
It's-
Marshall
and it's-
gave that response, correct?
And it's malicious. So yes, the stores are the store owner can say, this is my private property. You're not allowed to come in here. I'm segregating against you. And then but then it is the right of the other person to say, I'm a member of the general public. I have every right to be here. I want you to serve me. You're obligated to serve me as
Okay,
a
but
member
you
of
left out a part, Shannon. When you articulated it's a private place, you did not allocate that it's a private place open to the general public.
Yes.
Okay, you left that part out because in your
Is
response,
recognized as a place of public gathering and accommodation.
it then
They're
falls to
serving the general
accommodation.
public. It is not like a membership, like a country club
Right,
where
it's open
you
to
pay
the
a
public.
membership fee to get in.
That's
And
right.
so
It's open to
because
the
they're
public.
serving the general public, if they want, okay, Darren, this I learned this reading about the sit-ins. If the store owner wants to have a segregationist policy and
He has to turn it into a membership.
no, they can do it. They can do it. They can. It's their right.
Oh, they can. They can.
But it is also the right of the person coming in, the individual from the general public, who isn't liked and doesn't want to by the store owner or manager, whoever. If they don't want to serve that person, he or she has the right to say, you're obligated to serve me. And if they continue, now it's a battle of whose rights take precedent.
Okay, but
That
here's where the error with that is. You see, you either have to be serving. Okay, it's like religion. Okay, it's like religion. If I'm a Christian and I'm coming in this church, you can come in here if you're going to practice Christianity. Otherwise, you can't. You understand? You can't come in here and share Judaism. Do you understand? It's a platform that you have the exclusive right to. You can't open to the public. Pay attention. You need to learn this because you're still in the learning stages with the Jeep. You cannot say open general public without giving a format. and say you're not allowed in here. That's discrimination.
Well,
Do you understand that?
here's what I learned from reading
Do
the
you
Supreme
understand
Court
what I
case.
just said? You
If I
understand?
may,
Tell me if you understand what I just said.
yes, I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
Well, the Supreme Court said, okay, whose rights prevail? The, both of them are the same, but but the store owner can't be calling up the police and saying, "Come and get this person out of here."
That's different. That's an allegation of a
That's
crime.
my
That's a little
policy.
different.
But then the district attorney made the argument in one of the cases, well, but if the police don't come in and enforce the store's policy, then violence will ensue. And the Supreme Court specifically said that would be very unfortunate. And certainly we don't want any violence to take place or to break out, but that is not our
Police
responsibility.
job. The police cannot enforce private policy.
That's right. That's it.
Right.
And so if
That is
violence ensues, then they've got a different case on their hands. But the state, in any kind of a trespass charge, cannot be enforced by the state. So otherwise, it makes the state turn into a discriminatory agency. Basically, the government is discriminating. So they were held guilty of that. The state was in Maryland, Griffin v. Maryland, in that situation. That was 1964 when it was decided. So it applies today as well. And I'm just shocked that not a single attorney has spoken out against all of these trespass arrests. And, and other charges that cover up for the fact that they are arresting people because they're not abiding by their COVID policies. That they're arbitrary COVID mandates that are not laws. This is how they enforce them, is using trespassing, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, public nuisance. And those cases specifically made it wrong, illegal, and made it illegal to arrest people using these allegations of trespassing. Trespassing is not intended to be used to enforce segregation policies, and that's not just for race. It was broadly interpreted to be forward thinking into whatever segregationist issues could come up. And you can't foresee them all. And certainly COVID is one you couldn't have foreseen, that they would be discriminating against people who will not wear a mask for what it's a disability in my case, personal reasons also in my case, religious beliefs, philosophy. If you just decide you don't like to wear a mask because masks are under EUA by the FDA, which means emergency use authorization, and no one may be forced to use any emergency use authorized device or medical procedure. No one can be forced to. So they were essentially saying, we force you to use this emergency use authorized thing. And I'll bring it right back to the nursing homes. All right. These people were told, we force you to be quarantined because we believe that quarantine is going to wipe out COVID. If you remember in the beginning of the pandemic, they were saying, well, we don't know, we can flatten the curve. They weren't saying we're going to eliminate the curve. Do you remember at some point it sort of changed over to, now we're going to eliminate the risk? The government decided, okay, we're going to eliminate the risk. This is how we're going to do it. And they based all of their policies and approaches on what? Where did they get these policies from? How do they prove that they work? They don't work. My uncle is dead, and Mrs. Spitorno Rosa has perished as well. our families are suffering, and vibrant elderly people have been murdered under the guise of they were going to die anyway. They were old. Even my father, my uncle's brother, said the same thing. Oh, he was already old. He was already ill. He was already suffering from some health problems. And that is an excuse that they use that can justify the actions that they took, which were any normal person could say, if that happened to me, would I be okay with that? To be locked in my house? I couldn't even go outside for a walk with the dog when even Trump had specialists, medical specialists coming on TV on his daily briefs. He did daily briefs. Remember that? Where are Joe Biden's daily briefs? This is clearly a political issue, and nobody wants to say COVID is a political issue. Yes, it is.
You're right, Shannon, about that. You see, but here's the problem, which all lawyers and people knew, and advocates especially knew. I knew that we had protection and refuge under the ADA. We lost Frank again. He comes in and out. We lost him, but we'll get him back for the close show.
We had protection and refuge under the ADA, and then
we have refuge under the ADA. But here's where you have the biggest refuge. Under the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, that you cannot restrict somebody, and then you cannot restrict their First Amendment. That's why all of these, our first 10 Bill of Rights, are the paramount issues that we get to embrace as protection. It is, another word for it would be a badge of honor, a badge of safety that says, hey, I'm the big dog here. Not you, the elected, me, the citizen, taxpayer. Here's my shield, taxpayer. American-born citizen having every sovereign right to tell you what you're going to do. You don't tell me what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. One of the other things that Kamala got on television and said was that we could never, and everybody, we can never let this happen again. Let me tell you how that contradicts the Constitution. If call it insurrection, call it whatever you want. Whenever the government comes against the people, it is our duty and our right. As you know, this has been, it's in lawsuits that I put. And you happened, when we were sharing this, you found it in the third paragraph of the Constitution, the train of abuses. This is a train of abuses, a string of, if you will, a string of abuses by those who are elected by us. And when they violate the trust of the people, it is then our duty to rise up and throw off the guard for the future security of the nation. If it means get hostile, that's what it means. I'm not the interpreter of the Constitution. I'm the inherent of it. I am the inherent of its power and its authority. And that authority tells us, do not let government be the overwhelming source that would come against your freedom. That's right. That is correct. The Constitution.
Everybody needs to read and have one of these.
That's right. That is correct.
Even girls should have this. Everybody should have it in America.
It's very important because it addresses the attack on your freedom. Our founding fathers were slaves to authority. They founded a country that we would be a more, that's right, declarations. Bring it up a little bit. Bring it up. That's right, a little more. Bring it up, so you can see the highlight. Right there, stop. You're good. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are all endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, which is the freedom to roam and find your freedoms. To find through your freedoms, the liberties that we have is to achieve freedom. It's to achieve the goals through our freedom. Your liberty is another word for freedom.
We talked about this. Read this part too. Experience. Can you see it? Experience.
Yeah, so turn around, read it out. Go ahead, read it out. Let them see your face. Shannon, get in front of the camera and read it.
Okay. Experience hath shown. Now tell me if you disagree, anybody out there, does anyone disagree? If you disagree, put it in the comments if there are comments available. Let us know why. But it says right here, I think it's a universal truth. Experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. Do you know what that's saying? You tell me, Darren, what is it saying?
No, you tell us. You're the newbie.
Okay, it's saying that basically we're going, got this hair up here. We're going to put up with this abuse for as long as we can. We're going to get used to it, and we're going to be kicked while we're down. We're going to be like that possum coming
We're
on
going
the
to
porch.
allow them. We're going to, in other words, we are going to allow them and be adapted to the chronic lies, and we're going to accept it.
Yeah, and we will suffer with it. We'll put up with it for
And that's
a
where the
long,
suffering comes in. The
long
suffering
time.
comes in.
We're
from
putting it up with it now, but after a whole year of this emergency, you know, all of those,
These are all allocated. These are allocated by our founding fathers of what to do. The transformation of power from people to government is one that's never supposed to take place. Not ever. We are never to transfer the power of we the people to the elected.
So how do we get over it, Darren? How if even
How
the
do we get over it?
Declaration
We
said that
the
we're
people.
going to suffer.
There's
We're gonna
only
suffer.
one way. There is only one way over it. And those ways are civil war. That's what they are.
This is
Way
what it
to avail.
says. It says,
It's
but
a
when
challenge.
a long train of abuses
Abuse,
and usurpation, pursuing
Invariably,
invariably the same object, evinces a
convincing and
design
design against
under absolute despotism.
despotism
It is their right.
and our duty.
It is their duty. It's
That's right. It is the
your
right
duty.
and the duty
It's
to
your
throw
duty.
off the guard.
It's your duty. It's all of our Americans' duty. It's what it says right here. It's our duty to
Throw off the guard.
throw off.
Not he
Throw
didn't
it
ask you to tell him to leave. He
off.
said, grab him by the collar and take him from the
Throw
seat of authority.
such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
That's right.
We need new guards. Where are the new guards?
Well, one form of that is election. But here's what happened. Hold on. Here's what happened. In that election, as the number one candidate here, you watched me lose to voter fraud. Now it's time to take stand against this enemy. This enemy is an enemy against your freedom, against your liberty. And now you don't ask him to leave. You take him by his collar and you tell him to leave. And it says to use any force necessary. Now, what is necessary? What did they do? They fenced in the capital that belongs to us and said they have to safeguard the capital. The capital is a building for us. It's not for them. We have the right to go in there by duty. As
all the streets of DC are aligned to go indirectly to the Capitol so that all streets lead to the Capitol.
That's right. Just like all lives lead to leadership.
How can we, the people, be charged with a crime when we go to DC, when all the roads lead straight to the Capitol building? Is it our fault that all of the roads led us to that place? You know, you're going to charge us with trespassing in our own house? That's right. What they're doing. They're charging us with trespassing in our own house.
The Supreme Court justices were shitting their pants because they didn't want to address it. Because they said, if we do that, they're going to overthrow us. You're damn straight we will. And everybody afraid to say so.
It is our duty.
Here's the deal. Anybody afraid to say that? or say to them, listen, I'm going to get you and throw you off your seat. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm telling you to leave. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you off that seat, because that seat belongs to me. It is for the future. It tells you what it's for. The future security of the United States. If we let you stay, Nancy Pelosi, Ilhan Omar, Jerry Nadler, Chuck Schumer, we're going to suffer harm. How do we know? Governor Cuomo killed 15,000 Americans because they couldn't defend themselves.
If we continue suffering and suffering and suffering, and then the vulnerable start to get targeted and killed,
were targeted, Shannon. They were targeted.
That's what I'm saying. Then it's also on our consciences that if we sat back and said nothing and just said, well, what can we do? We're long suffering. Oh, poor us. We lost our dear loved ones, but we're not willing to stand up and say, I'm not going to wear a mask. I don't have to. That's the first step. That is the very first step. I've had people tell me, no, I want to choose my battles. I want to choose my battles.
That's what lawyers usually do. Lawyers choose people's battles.
With the very first small infringement, the smallest of infringements, you start there, because once you let them take a little, then they take a mile. That's the whole adage.
Well, that's the premise.
A little, you
same,
give an inch, they take a mile.
That very same premise is also in the Bible. It talks about if you can't handle the smallest of the blessing, you'll never get the big one.
Yes, that's
so when you make
the milk to meat argument.
Now, we were endowed by our Creator, which means we were born free. For those folks, we were born free. Our nature is freedom by the Creator, who gave us this world. Okay, who gave us this country and put 56 men in place to outline what those freedoms were. Each and every one of them shared a faith in God. Each and every one. It took 56 men to create this beautiful country that you say you're free. 56 people gave you this. 56 people gave you this to be an inherent right. We call them forefathers because we call them forefathers because they gave us this land as their children, the children of freedom. We are the children of freedom. We are the children of freedom, created by God to live free and to preserve those freedoms. And how do we do it? They gave you a manual in case you forget. And that Shannon just held that up.
It's not very big. Look.
No, but here's what it is. Here's what it is. It's big in power and authority. It's got a real simple phrase, but the most powerful in the Constitution. We the people. Throughout my campaign, I talk about it. And God willing, when the judges are right and in line with law, I will be the next congressman by the election power, because they can't change it. Mario Diaz-Balart can no longer be congressman after violating the Constitution. He violated it. He took the office without an election. He could never run again. He broke the law. The state has no authority over the Constitution because the Constitution is designed for the people. We designed the federal government so that we'd have a supreme power, which is the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. It governs all the states for the purpose of us, not for any other purpose.
Supreme law.
Right, for all of us.
The land.
So when the folks get in office, the governors, right, and they're not governing towards the will of the people, it is time to get rid of them. The first easy way is election. But when it becomes an abuse of our freedoms, then it comes to duty to use whatever necessary power. The uprising should have started in New York and through the governor from his office and the mayor. When you let pay attention, when you let an angry mob start looting and taking down the city, and you are an elected officer, and you don't do anything, then the people have all the will and right to take action. What is the action? To remove them from office and take the office by whoever is the leader of the Patriots, to take that office, whoever's elected. If I'm elected guy, okay, you're going to be the leader of us to restore constitutionality back to the state.
You know what, Darren? I believe that President Trump. Okay, I'm not even a registered Republican. I'm certainly not a registered Democrat. But
And you're registered as? While you're here and you want to share, what are you registered as?
I'm not registered at all right now.
Okay, we have to look at that.
I'm very disappointed. I'm going to join many, many others in the country to say I have no faith in our elective process.
I have
I'm
none.
very upset.
How did I, Shannon and John? How did I lose?
It
There
makes
was no other way but corruption. Corruption took out my position. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it.
It's me. Tell me why I should vote in this system that's been corrupted.
Yeah, but you see that what they talk about in the train of abuses, it's not to abandon your responsibility. That's not the answer. The answer is to stand against the lie.
Don't get me wrong.
Uprise against it. It tells us to have an uprise.
I did register and vote. I did register and vote. And
you are a registered voter.
No, because I moved.
Well, you're still a registered voter. You're still a registered voter. You just got to re-register in your state. But you are a registered voter.
I was registered in the state, but I moved out of the district that I was in. So I'm no longer.
Well, you're still registered for the general election.
I register as an independent.
I was an independent once.
I registered as a Republican one time when I was in Iowa to participate in the caucus, and I saw corruption in that process. In the caucus process, I participated in the Iowa caucus, a notorious swing state.
Oh,
and I will tell you that one particular Republican candidate pulled some shenanigans that really made me shocked. That is someone talking? Is it Frank?
Yes, go ahead.
So yes, I am registered as an independent, but I have a lot of questions about our systems of government, and I think a lot of
we all have, Shannon. This 2020 election was a serious eye opener because it had more attention. But these problems have been in existence for decades. What it is, like I realized in 2014, fighting for disabled, and when I became a candidate independent, that I was challenged with voter fraud and voter discrimination. And then I learned how bad it was. You read my 5446 case in the civil case, a 1983 claim that the judge wrongfully later dismissed, attributing to my sickness. Instead of accommodating me, she dismissed me and let it play out. But we're going to address that now. The United States is a defendant. She's a United States judge operating under the premises of the Constitution for an avenue of me to get civil relief. She violated my constitutional relief. She violated that relief by denying me access.
I'm hearing some background talking. Is that Sean's mic?
No, it's Frank. Frank.
Oh, it's Frank. Okay. Frank.
Yeah. Yeah. We could hear you in the background while we're talking. So you gotta listen.
Your dear mother.
Back to where I was earlier.
Okay, sit down. What'd you say? Shannon wants to say something to you, so take a seat. Take a seat and.
I don't think we didn't finish Frank's story.
Well, we
It's okay. It's okay.
we covered what they did. We covered what they did to his mother, how they infected her when she should have been isolated. She was isolated at the beginning, but after the surgery, after the second stent, they put her in a room infected. How do they make that mistake? That's not a mistake.
No,
You understand?
I've been in the
That's
health.
that's where gross negligence comes in. Now, as a disabled person, a qualified. Hold on, Shen.
And
As,
or
okay, Shen.
malicious.
As, okay, calm down, Tiger. Okay, as a qualified vulnerable. Okay, now look at this. As a qualified vulnerable, that shifts the category of protection. It says, do not put her next to these people because she faces imminent harm. New day. You understand? This is not Shannon.
Is it not a
Okay.
no-brainer?
Okay. This is not. Okay, calm down, Tiger. This is not. This is not the average. This is not the average person of ability. This is vulnerability. Vulnerability. It was told, it was foretold, it was protected. It acknowledges them as a protected class. How do you throw them into harm's way and say, oops, that's nothing, it's a mistake? It's not a mistake. It's not a mistake, logistically.
Age and disability, two protected classes.
Well, the disability is more protected in this instance. Why? Why is it protected?
64.
Because, let me explain why, Shannon. Let me explain why. Because the vulnerability, the words vulnerable are significant.
They invoked this
Okay?
year,
Okay.
right?
Vulnerable are subject to imminent harm from the COVID if they come in contact with it. So wouldn't it be fair to say, hold on, stand down. Wouldn't it be fair to say that if you put, here's COVID, here's COVID, here's COVID, here's the hospital. If we go like this, what happens? What happens? What happens? We just did this. And they said, don't do this. Don't even do this. This should be like this. This should be here alone. COVID should not be sneaking in like this. And then we go, oh, sorry, mistake. No, it's not a mistake. And the point of Frank's case is what they did to his mother was not a mistake. It was a willful act.
It is willful.
It is more than
professional.
No, it's more than gross negligence, Frank.
Yes.
It's more than that. It's gross, so gross and negligence because here's why. It's even bigger than that. Why? Because a medical professional, together with the CDC's warning, did not yield it. You understand? People who hold on, Shannon. The people who put the warning are medical professionals. The same medical professionals subjected her to harm. This is where it's more than gross. It's a willful act by medical professionals to say, you know what, today, but hold on. Today, they're saying today, Frank's mom is not going to get that protection. Today, it's not gross negligence. Today, it's our choice to subject her to maybe she'll get it. That's what the decision was. How do we know? Because she's in the room with her. You understand? How do you decipher? When I'm arguing your case, and I told the judge, Shannon, and I said, take me into private camera to tell, she allowed the person in that wasn't allowed to be there. What was that? What was that? It was her. Hold on. No, Shannon, watch the beginning. Watch the beginning. Here's where the problem comes. So you see it. I said, Judge, we have to talk in camera privately as her advocate to share with you why I'm here. Okay, prosecutor's not allowed in. I said, because it's regarding the ADA. He doesn't get to come in.
See, if
So,
the government
no, I
does
want
not
you to see the error
recognize
there. I want
rights,
you to see the error so that you can understand the error from Frank's mom. What is the error? Look at the error. Once she was advised, the error
intentional.
the error comes after her advisement. After she was advised what it was about, and I said it must be private, she allowed willfully him to come in and hear your medical condition. Do you understand now?
Yes,
That's what willful is. She
yes,
said in her authority, well, I'm the judge. I could allow the DA in. No, you can't.
right.
Why? The ADA is Constitution, baby. No.
But
But
someone's got to enforce it.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. She's the judge. I could say I object, and that's all I get to do now. You understand? That's what we get to do now. I object. Okay, overruled. Okay, now it is.
I
But
didn't even know any of that was going on, and I'm supposedly the pro se litigant,
See,
and
the
she didn't.
thing-
No one told me we're going in camera with your advocate. No one even told me that. I haven't even gotten due process from the start.
I
And
know,
neither
but
Frank
Shannon, we don't want to argue your advocate too, because then that's a double argument from the same people. You don't want to do that.
I just want to say this legal standard is to say, ask this test, is it outrageous? Was it outrageous? What happened to Frank's mother? Was that outrageous?
It was more than outrageous.
Was it,
It was murder.
was
It
it
was a way to
intolerable?
get around murder. It was a way to get, here's what it was. It was a way to get around, make it look like administrative protocol
Yes.
to get $32,000, pay attention, to get 32,000 from the government, claim no foul, no harm. Oh,
It's racket.
it's tragic. It just happened. It didn't just happen. They
Wait, I
pushed her
think Frank's
into it.
talking.
It didn't just, see, the problem with it, and this is what you have to absorb, Shannon, to understand, where does the law take over? Soon as we see who willfully broke it. What is the law? Well, there's the law of the land, which is the Constitution. These are the rights and truths that we hold to be self-evident. Now, we, as the true guardians of the Constitution, have to step up. What am I doing? I'm stepping up. What I do in your case? I stepped up for you. That's what we're supposed to do. Do you understand? That's a duty. The duty is to come in and then tell her. And now once she lets me, she can't stop me. Because what does she do when she stops me? She, in her own will, this is how you decipher will. Who's telling you to do this? Is somebody telling you to not have me judge? Or are you deciding? So you're deciding that you don't want me there. Why don't you want me there, Judge? You understand? She opens the door to a whole new lawsuit. Do you understand? This is why I try to teach you, Shannon. You gotta watch where and who's committing the act. Let them show you who they are by the statements they make. They'll make statements. They will do things that come in line with our protection that is sovereign, unalienable. Don't mess with it. It's mine. Don't touch it. It belongs to me. Well, I could do what I want. I'm the judge. No, you could do what justice calls for. Sit in that seat and dispense justice. That's what you get to do, Judge. Nothing else. You get to sit there on that little throne that you think you rule over the land. You don't. You rule over law. That's all you rule over. Not my life, over the law or the controversy before this court. That doesn't give you the power to say to me, well, I don't like you, and I'm not going to accommodate your disability. The reason they are laws, and the ADA is enhanced and enriched, that it's got to incorporate itself with due process, is because it's law. Constitution is law. It's not asking. It's telling. It's dictating the rights of the people. And these judges are supposed to take into account their duty to uphold that law. Justice O'Connor in 2005 made that crystal clear and said, if you don't do it, you're getting sued by it now. That's why Rooker-Feldman, sovereign immunity for the states when disabled are concerned, and you violated their rights, that's what I wanted you to look up for the judge. How are we going to nail her in? What would be the language we're going to use? We want the
Right.
language that says,
I'm looking into that, but what I wanted to finish was what happened to Frank's mother. This is the test. Was it outrageous? Yes. Was it intolerable? Yes. Did it offend all accepted standards of decency and morality? Yes. It offended all accepted standards of decency and morality. That is a test of whether they did something that was intentional,
we need that.
causing intentional emotional distress.
That's what
And
they
that's
did.
just emotional
That's
distress.
what they did to Frank's family. That's exactly what
Yes,
they did.
that's the definition of whether or not it caused intentional emotional distress.
That's right.
Outrageous, intolerable.
Yeah, go ahead.
and
Frank
offense-
wants to say something, folks. Go ahead.
Okay, Frank.
Shannon, guys, I think the majority of these deaths, I think the majority of these deaths are occurring in the hospitals. I believe someone what Darren is saying. The majority of these deaths, that the 300 some odd thousand Americans that have died,
500,000.
oh, no, yes, right. It's 600,000.
Well,
Yes.
according to their statistics.
I believe the majority of these deaths are occurring in nursing homes, hospitals. People are getting infected in these hospitals. They're going in for other ailments, and they're coming out dead in bags. Or I don't believe that the COVID is in the air like what these scientists are saying.
I don't either.
It's more inborn. It is airborne, but it's not the way as everyone should wear a mask outdoors.
Right. Yeah, the mask.
I don't believe in that.
The mask can't help it. The mask does not help it.
I don't believe because I've done a lot of research about this to get to my mother. And what our institution, our medical institution isn't stating is the fomites. Fomites are bacteria, viruses that's on our clothing and it's called the R0 number, meaning for every one infection, like the flu, for example, one person catches the flu, another one gets it. If you catch the average flu, it's 1-on-1. So the R0 number for the average flu on a yearly flu is 1 to R, or 1 to 1, which is a 1 number. Polio was 6. That was the worst infectious disease we ever had, was polio.
That's right.
Because I did a lot of research.
I have polio.
The R0 number is 5 and 6. When COVID first came out, the R0 number was 1 and 3. That means for every person infected, for every person that got infected, there was a potential between 2 and 3 got infected. Between 1 and 3 more got infected. Now the R0 number is 5 and 6. It's as much as polio, but that's not coming from outdoors. That's not coming from we should be walking in the streets with our mask on. Listen, after Darren didn't tell you, after the fact that my mother died, a few days later, my aunt died from COVID as well.
In the facility, that's correct.
Right, in the facility. 4 days later, I checked into a hospital because my stress was so high and so low. I was having pain in my chest.
You had a heart attack, Frank.
I had a series of many of heart attacks. Therefore, henceforth, after that, after we buried my mother, whatnot, then my aunt on February 8th, Darren was there. Darren went to both of them. Darren went to both funerals. Blah, 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 blah. On February 8th, we buried my aunt. On February 12th, I checked to the hospital, Mount Sinai in Astoria. They immediately found out through my blood test I had a series of heart attacks. They sent me to Mount Sinai Heart in New York City, Manhattan. I had a stent installed also. 13 days later, after the stent installed, I was walking about outside my house. I had another major heart attack. I broke my jaw. I broke 4 ribs. And I'm now wearing, in 5 months, I went from 59 to 79. Now, I look much better, right? But I have a defibrillator right now. And Darren could tell you, soon after my first heart attack, my hair was white as if I came down from Mount Everest.
Mount Sinai, Mount Sinai, Mount Sinai.
Right.
Not Mount Everest.
Right, Mount Sinai, and I had all white hair.
He looked like Moses. He looked like Moses.
Like Moses. Right.
You can see him now. Look at it. Look at it. Can you see him? This is very true. He did. Let me just tell him. He had. Hold on, Frank. Let me tell him.
When I came out.
Let me tell him. After his second heart attack, and they put him all in, he's in the hospital. He's all dark. His hair, like you see him now, all dark, right? He goes to me. His eyebrows were white. I said, "What the, Frank? What is that? What, Moses?" I went, "Moses. You look like Moses." No lie. Now it's got. They fixed him, and yeah, exactly. He went from 59 years old. He looked like 79 overnight. Overnight. Now look at John. Look at John. How big and healthy he looks. Right. Look how strong, healthy. John, how old are you now? 73.
Yeah.
73. Okay.
Never would have guessed that.
Okay. John, he looked like he was 78. Frank looked like 78.
My whole body was white. All right. Make a long story short, they're telling us to wear these masks, right? But here's the problem we're having in these hospitals. And I believe what Darren is saying is somewhat true, because when I was in the hospital, both times, when you're in a room, whether being isolated or you're in a room, a recovery room, most of our hospitals aren't isolated. You go in a room and you share with 2 people or 4 people. In my case, it was 2. In my mother's case, it was 2. But in my first case, when I had the stent, when I was in the recovery room, there was 4 people at Mount Sinai. And you're not required to wear a mask when you're in any of the rooms, whether it's an isolated room or a recovery room. You're only required to wear the mask when you're being transported to have certain procedures done. For example, an X-ray, cardiogram, a kidney test, or all kinds of tests. Now, when they take you out of your room, you must wear the mask as you're being transported. This is what I found out, and it's throughout the whole United States. See, we're forgetting the fact that I believe what Darren is saying, because they want to mandate us to wear masks, right? And I'll show you a picture of my mother. The day she died, she had no mask on. And I didn't realize that till we had FaceTime, that they gave us FaceTime, and we couldn't see my mother yet, because they said that once I go in, I got to quarantine for, at that time it was 14 days, it wasn't 10 days. So we had to do FaceTime. Make a long story short, I then found out through my experience, being in the hospital and seeing it on my floors, and then traveling, going back as an advocate in other hospitals, I see when you look in these patient rooms, some people wear the mask, others don't. But most of them do not wear the mask. Why? Because the hospital does not give them out. Either it's for the $32,000, they figure they're old people, they can go, we'll make an extra $32,000. Unless you ask for a mask, you're not giving a mask in any patient room. That's a fact, Darren.
I know. Let me respond to that, Frank.
She didn't know about this.
So
I learned when I got sick, I asked for the mask continuously. And after a while, they kept saying, I said, no, I want 2. CDC says 2. Darren will tell you, after I was released from the hospital, sure, Lord and behold, I caught the COVID-19.
No, you got it in the hospital.
I There were times I had to take the mask off to eat. And there was a patient next to me that kept coughing his brains out. And I'm calling down and down. And I think this guy's got the COVID. I asked the hospital to give me a COVID test before I go home because my wife's got lupus. They won't give me the test. The following day after I got home, they called my house. Mrs. Patorno, your roommate was tested positive. Well, guess what?
Okay, now let me tell
So
you.
they knew about that. Why don't they give us? Why don't we all wear masks? And listen, you know how they take the temperature when you walk into the store? The same thing they do in the hospitals.
I'm going to give you the answer, everybody. I'm going to give you the answer.
If your temperature level is within normal, they assume you're COVID free, not knowing that there's a 10-day incubation
10
period.
to 12
They're
days.
allowing these people to come into the hospital. The majority of these deaths are not outside where they want everybody to wear masks. It's crazy. The majority of deaths are occurring inside of hospitals where it's infected throughout every state of the union. Every state these hospitals are infected. And guess who's protected? The hospital staff and all their doctors, nurses, facilities from
And
the
let
food
me-
handlers on down.
and let
They're all
me-
protected.
And now let me respond to that long statement about the hospitals. It is the administrator of the hospital who designates what goes on in the hospital. It would be, to my best assessment, based on the actions, that the administrator didn't care who got affected. Didn't care. Why? Because there's protocols to take. There should have been disinfectants going on regularly. And at no time, any vulnerable person should have been in contact or near. Now, how do they know who they are? Their medical chart says who they are. If you got a floor of heart patients and you put one COVID person on that floor, you're in violation of that person's rights because you subjected them to harm. Don't tell me you're overcrowded. You got to use diligence. Segregate the floors. Real simple. Segregate the floors, isolate the area. If you got a half a ward, okay, now move all the patients vulnerable on this side, separate the other ones, and don't let nobody come past here. On COVID, when you have east wing and west wing, you don't let a crossing of the doors. Nobody on that side can come through here. Whoever works on that side comes through that elevator because they have two sides to the hospital, wings, east and west. Some of them have four sides. Okay, so let me tell you as an advocate how they're not going to get away from it because the protocol is on the administrator. That's why he's called administrator. Start administrating. What do we need to do? Well, it's a no-brainer. As an advocate, what do we got to do? Well, we got to protect the vulnerable. What are they? Who are they? You've been told who they are. Respiratory conditions. Now you got to separate the hospital. And that's easy. It's a matter of transference over here. Put this here. Let's cut this wing off. Let's take these people out of here. As we're doing protocol, as they're coming, we're moving them. We're moving them and we're sterilizing the floors. We're cleaning them. We know one thing for sure. Clorox will clean up the infection. So when you clean the outer area.
Clorox is toxic too.
Right. Well, Clorox, Lysol. We have a Lysol, a disinfectant Lysol. We have that. And you
I hope
disinfect.
I don't ever have to be in there in the hospital because
Well, look it.
that'll kill you. That'll kill you right there. All the disinfectant and
I
stuff.
can tell you, the 20 days that I've been in and out of the hospital, the 21 days, the only time they disinfect the room or the bed is when the patient leaves. All the time that I was there, they never cleaned up my bed.
That's why I want to say they've got
And so I believe they want.
it's not about the disease.
Well, it is about the disease and how they can profit from it. Because
Right.
the second they gave out checks, the second they gave a $32,000 number, did you think any hospital administrator wanted you to survive? We're not talking about
No.
doctors and nurses. Their job is to administer care, not to administer the protocol of the hospital. Let us be clear here. You see, as an advocate, everybody's saying, but they were so good. Yes, they were. But it's the administrator of the hospital who segregates you. And that person is responsible. I figure out who it is I go after. The ADA tells me to address the person in charge of accommodating or facilitating. I must find that person. And when I ask and they don't do, then they're in charge of responsible for violations. What happened here and in other hospitals is there was a bad protocol, and that's the fault of the administrator. When this trickles down, this is not about the doctor or the nurse. Some doctors should have made it does come to the doctor looks around. Why is there a patient here? This person needs to be alone. That's the first thing. The doctor is responsible for that. But the administrator is the one who is at fault because he sets the protocol for the hospital, he or she. And in Frank's mother's case, I want the administrator to answer along with the governor and the mayor, right? But she was in Nassau County, so the county executive is responsible.
State medical
His
board,
county, and
also
he's the
the
executor.
state medical board also.
Oh yeah, the Department of Health.
The state
State
medical
Department
board
of Health.
also is
The
separate
State
from the
Department of
Department of
Health, together with the CDC, should have said, hey, they're the vulnerable. We're a protected class. These lawsuits will get screwed up because they're not addressing the right people. I know who the enemies are. As an advocate, they came after my class, the vulnerable. They launched an assault on them. Who did it? Starting with the governor. He launched an assault that was successful. When you look at it from what he wanted to achieve, he wanted to see a high number of victims to be politically correct. That's what he wanted to do. That's what he done, and that classifies Andrew Cuomo a murderer, complicit with with Bill de Blasio, Chuck Schumer, AOC. These people, your elected leaders, have a duty to protect your life and liberty. Why are they elected? To do what? To do what? To protect your life and liberty.
They're elected to enrich themselves.
Okay, but that's the job that they turned it into, but that's not their duty. In
No.
protecting the Constitution, they're doing it for someone and not a document. They're upholding the document's content for the citizens within the state. He did not do that. He violated that law. That my uncle could have had a form of COVID that affected his testicle. But we don't know that because of cover-up, slander, corruption, and Medicare and Medicaid fraud. What we do know is that complicit falls into place with Medicare fraud when a transfer to owner who was actually buying the place and sees a log of what's going on, he knows it. When you get advised, like I advised the nursing home for my uncle and said he needs to leave and you should have let him leave with me. No, they kept him and he was subject to harm that was imminent. And he suffered imminent harm to his body, his person, his property. And he suffered. And also, aside from his testicle, they took his money. They took his property twice, from his person and from his wallet. And the governor allowed them. I sent the governor a fax. I sent the inspector general a fax. I sent the attorney general a fax. Nobody answered. Nobody.
Is Frank trying to say something too?
No, he's listening. He's listening.
I'm listening.
He's listening. And that's why all of those folks who were vulnerable suffered imminent harm. They were supposed to, under the governor's plan, to leverage the election and his help with the party to leverage the election against President Donald John Trump. The way to do that is kill Americans.
We just care about your wealth and your safety and your health.
Right. Well, one doctor
That's
said he didn't do a good job.
Your
They're
job
thinking
is not to,
Biden is confusing people, making them think he did warp speed. Even though I'm not getting the injection, let them take credit for an injection that gives you a magnet. It's injecting magnetizing fluids in your arm. Denny Ann called me. Denny Ann said, holy shit, she said. I put the magnet, like you said. I got the smaller magnet, put it on, and it's sticking to my arm. This is freaky. My daughter's friend put it on. I got the photograph. She said, Dad, look. And she's in the office doing it. on the site of the injection, a mini magnet, the round maybe magnet, put it right up. Wherever the shot goes in is where you got to, because that's where the fluid goes in, where they magnetize you to track you.
It's not
It's
a
magnetizing
vaccine.
to track you.
Even the pharmaceutical companies say it's not a vaccine. It is software. It's a
It's what?
software program. That's what the vaccine manufacturers say about the new mRNA vaccine. They're not vaccines, they're software.
Yeah, you ain't fucking hitting me with it. Yeah, fuck you.
I'm sure you,
Okay. Frank, I can't. You got to shut that background. I can't have that.
otherwise let us listen.
I can't hear. Okay, we're going to say goodbye to Frank now. And we'll talk with him later. And we're going to have another episode.
My mom just
Frank is
tried.
out because he's out there because he has to have lunch and stuff like that. So we're happy to have Frank, and we're going to talk about that. But we're also going to get ready to close this show because it's really a long time and it's got to be edited. But we had a good show.
But let's close it. Like, what are we gonna do about Frank's mom right now? What's the plan?
Well, a lawsuit is ensuing. And here's Frankie Elevator.
Frankie
Yes.
Elevator.
Yes, Frank. Hold on. Hello. Yes, we're still on, but we can't hear you with everybody there. Okay, you're sitting down. We're going to get ready to close the show. They want to know, where is your mother? Where is the action now for your mother? Well, I said we are talking with Neil and preparing a litigation. I did name the governor in this suit. I named my uncle as a defendant. We don't know if the testicle infection was a form of COVID and he was not mistreated, but we know this. There was double billing, Medicare fraud, medical neglect. We know that for a fact. And we know that his benefits were robbed for 3 years and that he had no voting rights. 3 of his fundamental rights were violated: his life, his liberty, and his property. These things for sure were affected. And they stand, and that belongs in the federal courts because he's a veteran. We are there before the court. Shannon is doing the remand with me on the amendment because the judge was adamant, and the other judge ordered the other judge to make accommodations, which he limited the accommodations, which we will speak about in the complaint back. We're going to pay the filing fee, Frank, because we're not going to keep being abused by this. We're going to give them their $403 and comment that he bullied us into it, not caring or taking into consideration that we lost significant amounts of money due to this fraud. He's causing a hardship for asking for 400, but we're going to give it to him because we don't want them to continue to infringe on our rights.
Right.
So, like you did last time when we did the other case, Frank, you threw out because we're not going to allow that. We're not going to allow judges and their rhetoric to come against the constitutional liberties. These are constitutional liberties that they violated against me, against John, against Frank, against my uncle, against friends that died, Frank's mother who died. They died because of infringement. There's no other reason. There's none. They're going to talk, and throughout the years, and there's going to be hundreds and thousands upon thousands of lawsuits. But who will be correct? The winners will prevail from the correct language. You understand? This is not just about she got COVID. How did she get the COVID that made her die? That's where the violation is. That's where her safety. She was not safeguarded as a vulnerable in a medical facility. It's the administrator's fault, not the doctor. The doctor is not the administrator. The administrator left them open to contracting the disease within the hospital. That's how they did it. I sat and thought about it, and trying to be a good litigator and civil rights advocate, I had to find who's responsible, because ADA goes to chain of command. Who
Why
do we
would
pursue?
the doctor responsible? The
That's right.
doctor should be advocating for their patient.
That's right.
Well, the doctor has a limited liability once he recognizes that she's not in a safe environment, because that goes to his treatment for her. You see, you got to know how to argue. Okay, they'll say, well, the doctor didn't cause it. In portion, he did. He saw his patient in a room with somebody else when he knows that she is a vulnerable candidate by the nation, by national advisory, that vulnerable people are subject to imminent harm, if not death, if in contact with a patient with COVID. Here's where the doctor faces liability. To not remove her from because here's why. I'm in a room with you, Shannon. I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be, because I need to be isolated from disease.
Don't go saying that about yourself. It's not that bad.
but Shannon,
I'm just joking.
of course. But the reality here is, I see Frank's mother. I'm a heart surgeon. I look around. What is this person doing in the room? That's my instinct, because I'd be that guy. It would be fair to say a doctor's diligence, knowing the CDC warning, heeding the warning, is what was not done. Do you understand? The governor did not heed the warning. He didn't care. He used his gubernatorial powers to exercise his discretion. He doesn't get to exercise discretion.
Maybe we could leave it here. I don't want to argue with you or anything, but I think that, in my opinion, like the doctors are on along the same lines of culpability as the police are in my arrest. That
Well, there's limited. Like, I mean,
or parallel, like they're administering the methods.
hospital policy is what he's administering.
They
You
should
see,
know
because the doctor has to follow the hospital policy. But
No,
whenever
it's
whenever he feels his patient is threatened, now he has to exercise his oath. But while he works for the hospital, he has to follow the hospital's protocol if he accepts the contract of employment. Yes,
But
he does.
doctor oaths are different today than the standard of harm that they had, like,
Right.
the way we usually
You have to understand,
like
a doctor
many
is under
different
contract with a
doctors.
hospital. A doctor is under contract with a hospital. You understand? Hospitals have
They-
unions, health and
doctor's
hospitals
under
union.
contract, but it goes two ways, because the contract has to have, a give and a take. It has to have a fair exchange.
Right, but the hospital, how the hospital is ran, is the administrator's rules, not the doctors.
The doctor signs on for those rules, but there's an exchange that is fair. So the doctor has to be able to say, look, this is not, if they say, look, our policy for taking care of COVID patients is to put them into dog cages in the basement until they either die or recover. So that's our policy for the hospital. And then me as a doctor who signed on says, okay.
Okay,
All right.
here's where that gets shot down. Good theory, but here's where it gets shot down. Okay? Here's the devil's advocate coming in. That would be nice, but COVID was uncharted territory for us. So it would have to be the doctor relying on his own skill. You see, this is where an experienced advocate comes in. Because I look at the doctor's skill and I look at COVID. COVID is new. The hospital has to set new policies. It's not the doctor's job to set policy. It's the doctor's job to heal you. But it's also to observe what circumstances are around you when he enters into that room where you're being treated, to observe any of the contractual diseases if they're present. That's what the doctor's got to do if he sees it. But under the other circumstances, because COVID was new, it's uncharted, but not for the administrator. The administrator is the one responsible for the practices going on in the hospital, not the doctor.
But if I'm a teacher, Darren, in a school, and this is another analogy, and I've been a teacher in a school, in several schools, and you have to, you go to weekly meetings, at least weekly, sometimes it's even daily for a while. You go to administrative meetings and you meet with the director of your school, which is by the title of principal. And so like the principal of a school would be like a hospital administrator. All of those doctors, all those teachers sit in on these administrative meetings, and if they have a new policy, they don't get to carte blanche. Just like in our government, they shouldn't get to just carte blanche make up rules and laws and ordinances.
They don't. No. That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Even if it's a new thing, like okay, now the school is going to start locking everybody down. And
you said the key.
You
said the key. The key is the administrator. You're saying if the school is ran by the principal and then guided by the district. You understand? It's not led by the teacher. It's not led by the teacher.
They do. The teachers do have a say, and so same with the.
That's different. If they're giving somebody leadership there, that's a whole different argument.
You normally are in these.
I'm talking with respect to New York. Okay, let me make it clear. I'm talking with respect to this New York hospital, this particular hospital in New York, and what I know as the standards of care and governing in New York for living there for 59 years, being a victim to malpractice. I
mean, I just think that the doctor is, if the doctor is administering wrong policies or techniques, because that's what they told him to do, then that's just like in the Nuremberg trials where they said, look, I was just following orders. They still got convicted, even though they were just following orders. If you're just aiding and abetting someone, even though you didn't.
Reason now you know why. Now you know why I made that example to you yesterday. That's why we sue them in their official capacity and in their own capacity. That's why.
Hey, let me say one thing. I don't care, administrator or no administrator. If Frank's mother was that doctor's mother, I guarantee you that she would have been out of that room within 10 seconds.
No doubt. No,
I don't know about an administrator.
But we're talking.
Has a responsibility for the health of his patient.
John.
The doctor has responsibility for the health and safety of his patient. And
no doubt.
COVID came out. Even though if you don't know nothing about it, you know it was spreading widely and killing people. That's a red light right there.
No doubt. I agree.
His mother should have been taken out of that room as soon as the doctor walked in, seeing there was another person in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That I did say that. I said once the doctor sees that his patient is subject, but the doctor's not responsible for the protocol of the hospital. You have to watch how you litigate, is what I'm trying to say.
Responsible. Yes.
Not as much as the administrator. Not as much as the administrator.
I was taken.
Here's why. The doctor's not constantly in the room with her. The doctor sees her in the operating room, and she's in a covered. Okay.
All right, then a nurse should never be held responsible if she, gives, the wrong medication to someone
that's
either.
Not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
Well, she could say that. Well, look,
we're talking of who has the paramount authority, who has the paramount responsibility, is what I said. Maybe everybody missed it. I'm saying the main person responsible is the administrator.
Okay. I'll give you that.
That was the statement. Not that the doctor holds no liability, but not as much liability as the administrator, because the administrator is in charge of the facility.
But the court most responsible, who gets worse punishment.
No, they all get the same punishment, but the reality is when you get to civil court, I told you this, it's all about money, because they can't fix the problem. You understand? The extent of the damage determines the amount of the award. As sad as that is to say. But the benefit of it in federal court, they don't get to do it again. That's the benefit. It stops it going forward. You see, you can't reverse, but going forward, they can't do again. So you get two pluses out of it. You save somebody else's life going forward, and you get an award for the pain and suffering. That's what the federal court does. That's all it can do. Because we all know we don't go back in time and fix it. It's not happening. But we have an accountability. Accountability is responsibility. And that responsibility was neglected by the administrator and second by the doctor when he enters a room and sees his patient is not secure. Then he has a duty. But when the doctor's in the operating room and they go to recovery and he brings out and he comes to see her because the doctor's, you got to remember, the doctor's limited contact with you. So he doesn't know what's happening until there's a final placement and he comes
But
to
you
see
should
you.
put everybody down who could possibly held to bless you. You should hold everybody. You should name everyone as a defendant who could be held responsible. This is just
Right,
a
but you got to
principle
hold them responsible in their capacity.
And what about
in their personal and in the
Well, that's
personal and
why I
and
told
public
you. That's
capacity.
why the capacity. No, no.
Yes.
There's your capacity, in your physical capacity, and in your official capacity. When I told you we do that because in certain circumstances, you have to make a conscious decision. And it was yours. There's duty, like the Constitution. There's the duty. Who's going to rise up against and throw off the guard? Do you understand? There's a negligence on behalf of the people to allow what's going on. That's negligent on behalf of the people. Are we going to sue ourselves?
But I mean, we leave it up to the courts to decide who is going to
The
hold
courts
more
don't decide duty.
responsibility.
Constitution determines
You
duty.
name them all. Name
The
everybody.
Constitution-
Everyone.
The courts interpret law.
Name them all.
You don't know.
Name 'em all.
You don't know where the worm stops because how I've been in the hospital many times, okay? And a guy would pop in his head at 6:30 in the morning and say, "Oh, hey, how you doing? How you doing?" I don't even know this guy, and he gets paid $250 just for sticking his head in the door and say, "How you doing?" So,
Right.
and I'm
That's
sure
right.
there's 4 or 5 of them that do that, and everyone who sees this elderly woman there in this situation, not one of them can take responsibility and say, "Hey, wait a minute," all they want to do is get their $250. Okay.
Look at like my uncle. The lady said she saw him every day for 25 minutes, billed $200. In person, she said, I see him once a month. On a bill to Medicare, she said she saw him every day. When I went to pick him up, the last time she saw him was August 13th. And he
Okay.
was discharged on October 15th. And they were still getting bills for October.
And the doctors are all complicit in the entire system. They're an integral and central part of it.
Well,
They need to be
they play a
responsible for-
significant role. They play a significant role. But I think we've had a great show, and we've been on for a significant amount of time. But I'd like to go out. Alexa, Lee Greenwood, proud to be an American.
Shuffling songs by Lee Greenwood on Amazon Music.
Until next time.
Alexa, Lee Greenwood, proud to be an American.
Shuffling songs by Lee Greenwood on Amazon Music.
She's a Democrat.
She's a Democrat, I think. What is it? What is this? The Battle Hymn of the Republic? Right?
All right.
This is a good one, too.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's
Okay, I like this.
light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stars and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Came through the night, and our flag Till there, oh, Savior, that star-spangled banner, yeah, wave over
Darren, Darren,
Alexa, pause.
Darren, why don't you play, Darren, in honor of Frank's mother? Why don't you play Ave Maria
Yeah.
for old mother?
Oh, I love that
We
one.
could do that. We could do that. We got a song for Frank's mom. Alexa, Ave Maria. Alexa, find me Ave Maria. Alexa, stop. Alexa, play Ave Maria.
Here's Ave Maria by Josh Groban on Amazon Music.
There we go.
She's listening right now. I can't hear her.
This is for you, Frank.
I can't hear her. Can't hear me.
Alexa, pause. Wow, that's a good song.
Song is like a prayer.
Josh Groban is a good guy.
That was beautiful.
We're happy to play that for you and your mom. And you're gonna
I can't hear you.
hear
I can't hear you.
I said we're gonna hear more. We're gonna hear more about Frank and his mom and where we're going with this case. We're gonna see, Shannon, as we develop our case, if Neil is gonna jump in and join the motion, because he can. He can, because we brought the state of New York. My uncle was a victim. His mother was a victim. Different levels of violations, but the violation is the same. The disabled were willfully neglected, even though the CDC gave a cautionary warning that gave us segregation rights to keep us safe. That's the word, Shannon. We had segregation rights that we were deprived, which would have kept us safe. Segregation rights we were entitled to keep us safe from harm. We didn't get them by the hospital, by the governor, by those responsible elected officials to uphold the Constitution. They failed. They failed America, and most importantly, they failed all Americans, because this is our country, and we are the guardians, the masters of our future that they've intruded on. They've intruded on our freedoms, and now they must pay the price. In this case, it's financial, but we can never let them get away with it. The time is now. If not now, when? If not me, who? We decide now what we're going to do. So everybody, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have Frank Spatorno, and we want to thank. We forgot to do a lot of things, and before we close, everybody, we got the hottest magazine in town. It is the magazine that I'm the chief editor, creator, together with my partners. I have two partners in the magazine. That's Code Media Group, Carl Van Nivius III, and Dr. Michael Antominoff, who is our contributor and a partner. Magazines don't come together, partners. You have a dream. I came up with a dream this day on a magazine. I'm an author of a children's book. I've been the advocate for 37 years. This is my 38th year as a national advocate, recognized by 4 presidents and 3 justices for my work as a patriotic American. Yes, I'm a candidate in this 2020 election. Shannon is helping with the amendment complaint to bring this action forward that corrupt judges have delayed it. One judge stepped up, Mark Walker stepped up and ordered the judge to make the accommodations. We're 5 months past its date of reconciliation, the date of retribution, right? They have passed my date, but we are still entitled to an election. But without the concept of this here, this magazine is going to talk about the COVID America. This lawsuit is about COVID America and how it affected Americans, and the congressional race and the entire presidential race and the Senate race. This manufactured Chinese virus that came out of China that attacked Americans. It's crystal clear who came and done it. We're not going to let America be China. Not today, not ever. And if a president or senator tries to allow such overthrow by a government, we will overthrow that person, whoever they are. It is our duty and responsibility, our duty, ladies and gentlemen, our duty to not sit back and get our asses kicked, but to kick the asses that try and take our freedoms away by taking advantage of the prestigious office we elect them to. We elect them to. Everything is about we, the people. We gave them the opportunity. We also gave them the opportunity to screw us, and we got to take it back. And that means to throw them from their seat. However it means it, we have to do it. If a civil war has to arise, then that's what it is. Then that's what we have to do. Otherwise, you could say goodbye to America, hello, communism, socialism. I won't do that. And if you do that, good luck with it, because then you become the enemy of the people. We, the people, is not one person. It's a group of us. We, patriotic Americans, who are the inheritors of the Constitution by our founding fathers, executing the dreams and values and responsibilities of the Constitution of the United States of America, not the corporation founded in London, but the United States of America by we the people. So we want to thank Code Media, Triple Vibes Radio, and of course my host here and our guest Frank Spatorno and Shannon Greer, Sheila, and of course my co-host Johnny Pizza, our new contributor Shannon, who comes packing with the Constitution. She brings the book every time she shows up, and we gotta love it. She comes with her book and her flag. She's a Constitution-toting American, and we wish we had more like her. But we got the project again. I went 10 miles away from where I had to go. And yes, there she goes. Look, she's already ready. Look at her. She's ready. She's armed and dangerous. She's got the Last Goodbye book, lastgoodbye-book.com is where you're going to find this extraordinary book. You're going to meet John. Now let's talk about the event before we go. We're going to sign off after this. We are going to have on June 16th at the Taylor House on 8th Avenue in New York City. We are opening up New York, and we're going to bring the CV19 mag that's going to tell you how this began and what's going on. It's the only magazine of its kind. I'm proud to be the creator and chief editor of this magazine, to have my partners, and other partners are going to come on, and other contributors. Listen to me. The good thing about this magazine is that John will be there, and we're going to talk about the book. We're going to talk about the movie we're working on, the mini series that I'm one of the directors and producers, and John's life story in Vietnam. His life story in Vietnam, what he lost there, the sacrifice he made there, his heroic deeds for the country and his countrymen that were there in Vietnam with him. The 3 lives that he rescued, and he didn't get the Congressional Medal, but we're going to not stop. We're not going to stop until he gets it. If it takes till he's 80 years old to get it, I will fight and I will get it. Because nobody tells the chief no. I haven't listened to the word no.
Aaron can get it.
That's right, Shannon. Thank you for those powerful words of trust and confidence. So on this June 16th, you're going to get to meet John. You'll get to meet Shannon. You'll get to see Frank. Frank will be there on June 16th. He will be there. And hopefully Neil and Louis will be there. The Spatorno family will be there, and you'll get to meet them. Frank, everybody, is the assistant national chief. We got more. John's going to be part of the organization as well, with regards to veterans on a national level. What better experience than John to contribute to his fellow veterans in the worst war in the history of the country, where we lost 58,000 men. And this Memorial Day, people are going to barbecues instead of the cemetery. It already explains itself. Kamala Harris comes on television and says, enjoy the holiday weekend. What is that? It's not a holiday. It is by no means a holiday. I went on Twitter, and I'll say it here. Memorial is a day of remembrance. A day of remembrance of the sacrifices made by the men and women who put on various uniforms. Pearl Harbor, nurses were killed. Nurses serving the men who got hurt. Okay, so let us recognize that even in Vietnam, nurses, they blew up things. Nurses and doctors got killed from bomb attacks. So it would be unfair for me to say just men were killed. It wouldn't, because in every war, a woman played a role, and they lost their life to it, or their loved one's life. A sacrifice was made, and to merely call this a holiday is such an egregious attack on our veterans. That is an egregious attack by socialism. This is not a holiday. It is not a day to go out and barbecue. Many men and women died for your freedom. It's not a day to barbecue. It's a day to remember with gratitude and humility. To humble yourself, make your day. I would always go out, and there's video footage on Memorial Day, and I would go in New York City on Fleet Week, and I'd be on those battleships and going around. My wife was with me. I go and honor those men and women. I come from a family of veterans, and I love our veterans. I defend our veterans, and I will continue to do so. We're gonna have Chris LaMarche come back on the show. Shannon had the privilege of speaking with the LaMarches, right? How much fun was that, right? And John knows Chris, right? We're talking about. She got to know about that. We're gonna get back with LaMarche. We want to know where his Purple Heart is and why doesn't he have it. John's going to be following up with that too. We're going to have him on. We're going to have Ron on too next week. We got some other people that'll be coming on to contribute to this show, because this show is about you, the people, or I should say we, the people, where it's about the veterans who are neglected. John is their voice. John is the voice of veterans and is the ear to other veterans. So if you're struggling with something, contact us here. Or Google, just Google my name or Google John's name. And you'll go to the lastgoodbye-book.com, and there's a contact for John. If you go to CB.
Darren Aquino.
Yeah, there she goes. There's me. Good, my spokesperson.
And tell them how they can find you. Where's your website?
Where can they find me, Shannon? www.adaadvocates.com, and you will find me. Or if you get lost, just Google Darren Aquino. John comes up. Now Shannon will be coming up, because in the tags, when I hashtag, their pictures and photos will be with me. But you could find me there. If you got an issue that you want to talk about here, we want you to come on.
That's how I found Darren.
That's right. How did you find me, Shannon?
Yeah, I was Googling ADA advocate, and he came up #1. So
There you go.
I gave him I went to the
number
website.
one in the country, baby.
Gave you a call.
You got to remember, Shannon Googled ADA in Kentucky. She's in Kentucky. And who comes up as #1? ADA, baby. #1. And I'm proud of that. I'm thankful to God for that, because only God sets the scales for man. Okay? So, I mean, you don't get to be #1 on your own doing. That's for sure. But if God deems it so, then I am. And that being said, we want to thank everybody again. We just listened to those beautiful music, and maybe we should go out. Alexa, Lee Greenwood, Proud to Be an American.
Here's God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood.
Okay, that's right. God bless. Okay.
I guess
We're going to go out, ladies and gentlemen, with Lee Greenwood. So to all our sponsors and supporters, and to all of you, thank you. And at the end of the song, it is the close of the show. So let us be proud to be Americans today. Hold this song in your heart and in your mind. Start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today. The flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I will stand up next to you and defend her still today. No doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I love my country. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, unseen a shining sea, Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say, proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. Forget The men who died, who gave that right to me. Stand up and defend her still today. No doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Woo!
Call, where at least I know I'm free. Who gave that right to me? Next to you and defend her still today. I love this land. God bless the USA. Well, we have Carl on the phone here. We got Frank calling in. Yes? Yes, what? Yes. Yes, we're happy, Carl. Okay, Ronald, thank you for that. Okay. All right, standing by. Go ahead, Frank. What happened? There's Frank. Hold on. We're getting all kinds of interruptions every year, everything. We're connecting to Frank. Okay, we're back. Well, we come to the close of the show, and I just like to play a very patriotic song. This is still, you know, we should recognize this as Memorial Day is a big day. Veterans Day is a big day. It's two different honors, like John was telling you. One for those still serving, and the biggest one of all, to remember those who served and died. If we don't remember our past, we don't have a future. And it's difficult to proceed into the future. We have to acknowledge our mistakes and our shortcomings that are from our past to have a positive future. We're happy to have everybody here at Cold Wind Talkers and our contributors and Frank, and we're happy that Frank shared his painful and loving story about his mom, his family, the effect it had on them. And Frank is still with us, everybody. He's there. Here he is. Wait.
Frank.
And it is important. It is important. And if we edit any of this, or we take some of the content out. I mean, there's a whole lot of content here. But the thing that's most important.
Unknown caller.
Is the cat. No, the most important thing here that has come under attack is our freedom. They've isolated people in hospitals and murdered them, literally murdered them in nursing homes. There's no excuse for the nursing home. There's none. He needs to be punished, Governor Cuomo, and now he's talking about running again for election. He's got the gall, the audacity to think he's going to be governor of New York again. I want to be the governor that pulls the switch and we bring back the electric chair. That's what I want to be. I want to be the executioner when we put him in the hot seat. He killed 15,000 Americans, everybody. And we could never excuse that. Conduct of an elected official in that capacity to recklessly, egregiously, to leverage the campaign against the president who sent in help, immediate help, and to deprive the people of that help is what he did. He deprived them of that and didn't use his executive powers given to him by we the people. He broke the trust of New Yorkers, all of the Democrats. He destroyed Democrats that day. That was the day that he killed Democrats. That was the day he said he's governor, he's in charge of the Constitution of the United States. One single man took the authority. But here's where other executive powers took no authority. AOC, as a congressional leader, had a duty to step up. Duty. Chuck Schumer, senator, had a duty to step up. We're all talking about New York City elected. Jerry Nadler is from New York. He took no action. He took no action to save the lives. Former governor George Pataki, I was with him and we were talking about it. We were at Rayo's restaurant. There's a video that you see us. Nobody took action. His acts against the nursing homes were malicious attacks on the vulnerable, like Hitler did in Munich. He attacked the vulnerable and put them to death by torture. He suffocated them because that's what COVID did. COVID suffocated Americans. That's what it did. It attacked their respiratory system and it killed them. Governor Cuomo did that. De Blasio was complicit. AOC was complicit. Nadler was complicit. If you look at chain of command, otherwise, what was their purpose of serving during this time? Because somebody give me a reasonable response. Until next time on Code Wind Talk. God bless you, America. God bless New Yorkers. And God bless our veterans and our law enforcement. And yes, listen, we're not against doctors and nurses. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that there is an arrogance out there. Everybody in a pandemic like this at the time, everybody plays a role in responsibility. We're a great nation because throughout the history of this country, we've all taken a stand. That's how civil wars won the country. We had a civil war to win what was right. And we fought what was right and we prevailed. We beat the South because their idea was not the right idea. We stopped slavery with Abraham Lincoln, but some Democrats believed slavery was good. Republicans said, no, all men are created equal. Democrats say no.
Yeah, it's always
Enslave
Democrats.
the people, not just black. Let's enslave everybody who doesn't have as much as we do. That's what they did. Lincoln stopped that. He got a bullet. Kennedy wanted to break down. He wasn't a bad guy. Nixon wasn't a bad guy. But when they're not in line with all of the American people, it questions their service. Ronald Reagan was a good president. He was the guy that inspired me. As you could see, he's featured even his funeral because I was the guy that made the rules for his funeral for disabled access. I bring access. So today, as we say goodbye again, I want you to know on another Wind Talk, we hope to see you. And then we got another show that'll be coming soon, The Advocate. We got another show coming soon, The Advocate. John will be on that show when we have veterans. We got The Advocate coming. It's going to be another channel. And Shannon will be on that with me. And you're going to see, and we're going to have other guests too. And we're going to have another thing with that. It's The Advocate. Because we do have cases that are paramount. This is a regular platform for people to tell all their stories. The Advocate's going to talk about civil rights cases. Civil rights cases exclusively. Civil rights cases. So, again, say what?
And exquisitely.
Yes.
Exclusively and exquisitely.
Yes. So until next time, everybody, I'm Darren Aquino. This is Johnny Pizza, and this is our special guest, Shannon Greer. And we say goodbye to Frank Spatorno. And don't forget, on June 16th,
Bye, Frank.
on June 16th, you want to be there or be out. You want to be part of the launching of...
Be square.
Right. You want to be there. Okay. You want to be there on June 16th at 6 p.m. at the Taylor House. To be there is to be part of the newest magazine that's going to bring an incredible source
You
of
didn't have the
information.
magazine up now. You just hold it up so send me a copy of it and I'll hold it up over here.
You're going to be there when we issue the copies there. You got to be there to get it. So we want everybody to see it. Of course, if you go to www.cv19mag, you're going to see it, and there's an invitation there, and there's ways to contact and be part of. So on June 16th, don't forget, we'll see you next week, and we're going to broadcast live from there. So Shannon, you'll be there. John will be there. We'll do a live broadcast, and we'll be the first time all of us together in one room. We're going to open up New York, and we're going to open up the hearts of New Yorkers. Yeah, well, it's going to be fun. So Shannon's going to be there. John's going to be there. And of course, I'll be there. I'm the MC for the night, and I'm your host for the night. It's going to be fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
No, we're going to have you. It's going to be great. And, remember, cv19mag.com. and you're going to see the magazine. You're going to see the invite. And if you're in the New York area at 6 to midnight, it's going to go from 6 to midnight. It's going to be an incredible time. And you're going to see some incredible people are coming out. We got some folks coming out to join us in this amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, there he is. Yeah, and we're gonna have an amazing time.
Thank you, Lord, 'cause my book. Thank everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll see everybody then. So again, until next time on Code Win Talk. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Triple Vibes Radio. Thank you, Carl Benivius III at Code Media Group for putting us on, and thank you all for always being here. Let's wave that flag as we get ready to approach our Independence Day coming soon. So this is Darren signing off, saying we'll see you next
Bye-bye.
time on Code Win Talk.
Bye, everyone. God bless.
Bye. God bless. See you next time.
All right.